Well, when I told him that I was pregnant, he kind of like was shocked a little bit. Then he was like, "She gonna be my 13th daughter. Like, how can I take care of all of them?"
His what child?
13th kid.
I told her I had 8. When I came back into town, I knock on the door, and the door opened. I see my pajamas. Mr. Ray has on the pajama top.
That is not true to me.
The gentleman has on the pajama bottom.
Your pajamas?
My pajamas. I didn't create no drama. I didn't fight. I didn't do anything. I turned around. I tell my cousin, I said, "Come on, let's go."
Things kick off wild, setting the stage for chaos. Ms. Toure accuses Mr. Lacey of being an absent dad to their grown son, Trevon. She's determined to prove he's the father and end his excuses. The judge braces for a messy showdown. Buckle up, the drama is just getting started.
Ms. Toure, you are in court to prove to your ex-boyfriend, Mr. Lacey, that he is the biological father of your adult son, Trevon Lacey. You state that the defendant has been an absentee father full of excuses, and you want it all to end today in court with the truth.
Yes, Your Honor.
And here comes the birth certificate bombshell. Ms. Toure flashes it like proof of gold, showing Mr. Lacey's name as the dad. He denies signing it, claiming he was in jail when Trevon was born. The he said, she said clash gets intense, with receipts flying everywhere. Don't blink, it's heating up fast.
Your Honor, I could not have signed the birth certificate. I was not, I was incarcerated at the time Trayvon was born.
You. So this birth certificate, child's name, Trevon Lacey's father's name, Larry Lacey, but it's typed in. Was he present at the birth?
He was not present, no.
You basically just gave them his name.
I gave him his name.
And they typed it in.
Yes.
Money enters the mix, and things get messier. Mr. Lacey's been paying child support for years, reducing his debt to $5,000. He admits inconsistency, but insists he never agreed he was the dad. Paying bills while doubting paternity, the plot thickens with every twist.
You owe $37,200 and some odd dollars in child support, which you have...
Knocked it down to $5,000.
You've got about $5,800.
You know, sometimes during them years I was unemployed. As soon as I find employment again, then, you know, my wages start being garnished.
But you've managed to pay that $37,000 down to almost $5,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Just when it couldn't get crazier, Ms. Toure drops a double life bomb. She claims Mr. Lacey vanished after she got pregnant, living with another woman nearby. Meanwhile, she faced the fallout alone. The revelations make this a reality TV-worthy saga.
My first time I had sex with Mr. Lacey, he got me pregnant, but I didn't know it at the time. So Mr. Lacey told me he left and went out of town. He disappeared. I don't know where he went, but later on down the road, as time revealed, he was living a double life. It was another woman in the neighborhood that he had left me for. So at that time, I thought, it was over.
Here comes the soap opera twist. Pajama drama. Mr. Lacey tells a wild tale of coming home to another man in his pajama bottoms, and Ms. Toure in the matching top. She fires back, denying it. The visual is hilarious, but the tension is real. The drama's far from over.
When I came back into town, I knock on the door, and the door opened. I see my pajamas. Mr. Ray has on the pajama top.
That is not true to me.
The gentleman has on the pajama bottom. I didn't argue, I didn't fuss. I turned around, I tell my cousin, I said, "Come on, let's go." So we left.
So do you remember this incident with the pajamas, Mr. Ray?
He is straight lying, I'm telling you, Your Honor.
Enter Trayvon, and the mood shifts. He opens up about growing up without a dad, feeling lost, and leaning on his mom who raised 3 kids solo. His heartfelt words tug at everyone's emotions. But a revelation is coming that'll flip his world.
Larry, I believe, growing up with my mom, there's a lot of things that I wish you could have been there with, as far as her having to be my father as well as my mother. I feel like if you were there, it was a lot of, heartache and headaches, which I believe are your grandchildren. They have a right to know who their grandfather is.
True.
I want to let you know that. I'm just ready to get these results so we can move forward in our lives.
The truth finally cracks open. Ms. Toure admits there was another potential dad. Trevon is stunned, his world shaken. This confession shifts everything, leaving the courtroom in disbelief, but there's still more to come.
Mom, do you know where this other man is?
I have no idea where he is, but he's aware that I was pregnant and Larry came back and all that. He's given me pictures, just in case this situation came out where the DNA say he is the father, he would be interested in getting back into my son's life.
You didn't know any of that was going on, did you?
No, ma'am.
And I'm sorry for that, son. I should have told you.
The moment of truth arrives with the DNA results.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Lacey, you are the father.
Thank you, Your Honor. I told you. I told you. Now stand up, give my son his respect.
Mr. Slaughter skips court, and drama sparks immediately. He claims he met Ms. Johnson years ago, lost touch, and only found out he might be a dad 2 years back. His response? That kid doesn't look like me. Why now? Hold tight, it's about to get messier.
Well, Ms. Johnson told me possibly about 2 years ago that I might be a possible father for Mr. Johnson. And my first reaction to that situation was like, I don't think so. He doesn't look anything like me. And why would you wait till he's a grown man to tell me that I might be a possible father when all this time you've known me and we've been friends and it never came up before?
Cue the soap opera vibes. Ms. Johnson confesses to calling every guy she'd been with, unsure of Damien's dad. Damien's frustrated, just wanting answers. The paternity puzzle deepens, and the tension skyrockets.
So your testimony is at the point you realized that man number 2 was not Damien's biological father. You basically started calling everybody. You admittedly were sleeping with multiple men. You said you were fast, telling everybody I was having sex with, you could potentially be my son's biological father.
Yes, because we didn't end up following through with it back then, and that's why we're here today.
For a second, things seem sweet. Mr. Slaughter says he'll step up if he's the dad. Damien's interested but unsure. Just as clarity feels close, the drama escalates again.
If you're proven to be Mr. Johnson's father, what are your hopes for the future?
If I am proven to be Mr. Johnson's father, I'm gonna definitely, be a good role model, a mentor, do all the type of stuff that a dad is supposed to do for a up-and-coming young man. I know it's very important for a young man to have a father in his life, and it's never too late.
Tissues ready? Ms. Johnson gets emotional praising Damien, with even Judge Lake chiming in. Everyone's feeling warm and fuzzy until, bam, another possible dad enters the scene.
Is there anything you want to say to your son? He is such an amazing young man.
He is, and I love him so much.
Oh, me too, Mom.
He excels at everything he does. He's amazing. People are missing out, and it's not fair at all to any of them. I feel in my heart that he's Damien's, the only one to carry on his name.
The plot thickens. There's now a 6th potential dad, Mr. Harmon, who admits to casual history with Ms. Johnson. He steps up to share his story, and awkwardness ensues.
We have 5 potential fathers.
There's another one.
So that is potential father number 6.
Yes.
And who is this man?
Mr. Harmon. There wasn't one. We hung out a couple times and had a couple sexual encounters, and that was it.
Chaos continues. Mr. Harmon only learned 4 weeks ago he might be Damien's dad. He's shocked but willing to cooperate. As suspicions grow, the moment of truth inches closer.
When is the first time you heard Damien could potentially be your biological son?
4 weeks ago.
Ms. Johnson reached out to you?
Well, we're friends. We're still friends.
Oh, wow. But you never knew
No.
he could potentially be your biological son?
No, I didn't. I have other kids, but I don't think that he's mine.
Grab more tissues. Damien shares how growing up without a dad made him feel left out. Judge Lake gives him an empowering pep talk, but the suspense over his father's identity is unbearable.
I feel like I'm not as good as everybody else because they all got dads.
Oh,
Don't ever feel
just
like
break my
that.
heart. Don't you ever feel like that. You are worth it. You are just as good. That's why we're here for you, because you are important today or not. You still are worth it.
The results drop. Mr. Harmon and Mr. Slaughter are not the father. It's a roller coaster of dashed hopes, and the search continues with no end in sight.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Harmon, you are not the father. These results pertain to Mr. Slaughter. It has been determined by this court. Mr. Slaughter is not the father.
Mr. Henley is also ruled out. Ms. Johnson is convinced it's Mr. Ellerson, and a DNA test with his mom is next. The suspense is suffocating.
22-year-old Damien Johnson. It has been determined by this court. Mr. Henley, you are not the father.
Heartbreak hits hard.
It has been determined by this court. The percentage of relatedness between Miss Lethea Murray and Damien Johnson is 0.00%. You are not related.
This story is a roller coaster from the start. The judge kicks off Curtis versus Buckley, with Miss Curtis claiming Mr. Buckley is her son Xavier's father. Mr. Buckley denies it, accusing Miss Curtis of cheating, and the drama begins.
Miss Curtis, you say this court date is extremely important to you. You're here to prove to your ex-fiance, Mr. Buckley, that he fathered your 22-month-old son, Xavier, because his denial has left you homeless and in need of help.
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Curtis says Mr. Buckley's actions left her and her baby in a homeless shelter. She shares tearful details of life as resident 1625. Mr. Buckley tries to defend himself, but the tension is rising.
With him being in and out of our life and kicking us, not only me, but his son out of his apartment, we landed in a homeless shelter. I was known as resident 1625, sleeping in a twin-size bed with my son.
That's not true.
Sharing
not kick her out.
Everything with other residents in the homeless shelter.
You say he kicked you out, Miss Curtis?
He went to his landlord.
Mr. Buckley claims he can't have kids, citing failed relationships and a fertility specialist. Miss Curtis fires back, saying, "It only takes one fast swimmer." The courtroom turns into a battle of science and emotions.
Your Honor, I don't think I can have kids for multiple reasons.
It only takes one fast swimmer.
I was in a relationship before and we tried to conceive a child. We went to fertility specialists and we were on medicine and kept up with ovulation dates and the whole nine. And as soon as we separated, she ended up having 2 other children.
Miss Curtis recalls her 13-hour labor and emergency C-section with Mr. Buckley by her side. She says seeing him crying in the nursery made her fall in love again. But Mr. Buckley's doubts linger.
I was in labor for 13 and a half hours. Mr. Buckley was with me for the whole 13 and a half hours. I have pictures of him at the hospital. I ended up having to have an emergency C-section because little Xavier's oxygen level dropped and he was in distress. And when I woke up and they wheeled me by the nursery to see him, Mr. Buckley was standing there with tears running down his face. That was the moment that I fell in love with Mr. Buckley.
A witness claims Miss Curtis's house had frequent male visitors, complete with a diagram of her view. Miss Curtis insists they were friends and says one was learning English. The drama escalates.
She done came and confided in me and told me about the other guys.
What exactly could you see from your door to hers?
I could see men coming out of this door. And
How?
Her
When I don't even use that door.
And her running up to the Africans up at the other apartments up top.
The Africans I was teaching English to because he came from Africa and didn't speak English. He didn't speak English.
He spoke English to me.
Child support becomes the next battleground. Miss Curtis accuses Mr. Buckley of quitting his job to avoid payments, but he says he's back at work and signed the birth certificate out of love.
Are you currently paying child support?
No, he quit his job so he wouldn't have to.
I'm working right now. I'm missing out on work right now. I just started back.
Father's name, Xavier Buckley.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's you.
Correct.
You signed it voluntarily.
Yes, Your Honor.
And is there a child support order?
Yes, Your Honor.
He was supposed to pay $216 a month, and then when he quit his job, they dropped it down to $80 a month.
The DNA results reveal
it has been determined by this court, Mr. Buckley, you are not his father.
Oh, baby.
Oh boy, things kick off wild. Ms. Short and her mom storm in, accusing Mr. Johnson of denying he's the dad of baby Jabari. She's juggling school and parenting and wants him to step up, while Mr. Johnson's like, let's see the DNA first. Trust me, it only gets crazier from here.
Ms. Short, you and your mother opened your case today because your first love, the defendant, denies he fathered your 21-month-old son, Jabari. You are a single teenage mother who needs help, and you demand Mr. Johnson step up and be a father.
This part's emotional, but a roller coaster. Ms. Short shares how tough it is being a single mom and needing a father figure for Jabari. Her mom chimes in, wanting the truth, but instead of answers, things get way messier.
And my son, as a boy, need a father figure, and I need extra help, like while I'm in school.
She just need to know, is he the father? So he can step up and do the right thing, hopefully. You know, we can't make him, but we need to know, because I did stop him from coming over because I didn't want no feelings to get involved.
It's pure soap opera. They met on Facebook, fell in love, and he was her first everything. Then drama strikes. She caught him with another girl, moved on quickly, and slept with both guys within days. Now the timeline's a math problem.
It was on Facebook. We used to text. He was my first kiss, first everything. Me and Mr. Johnson had sex April 23rd. I seen him on Facebook with another female, and I was like, he just left me. After that happened, it was May 3rd. I went out to eat with some friends, met the other boy, and this is not my first time meeting him, but this the first time we ever had sex.
Now it's Mr. Johnson's turn to spill tea. He didn't know about the pregnancy until 6 months in and was ready to step up. But rumors of another guy shook his confidence, and he's questioning everything.
I was away. I found out she was pregnant 6 months into her pregnancy. She told my mom and dad she was pregnant and I could be the father. So at the time, I'm thinking that the baby's mine. At the end of the day, when I come home from being away, I got her friends coming to me, talking to me about the other dude. I was there. When she called me and asked me for stuff, I was there to help her.
Ms. Short says her pregnancy timeline matches her time with Mr. Johnson, but admits another guy was in the picture. It feels like a real-life Who's the Daddy with high stakes and real tears.
My due date was January 14th. I had sex with Mr. Johnson April 23rd. And May 3rd, it's just too close.
You reached out to them as well to say that it is a possibility that he could be the biological father. You also know that Mr. Johnson is a very real possibility because of the proximity of the time you had sex with Mr. Johnson and the time you had sex with the other guy.
Mr. Johnson wrote a heartfelt letter promising to be a great dad if the baby was his. But when he heard about the other guy, doubts crept in. It's sweet for a moment until the looming DNA results remind you of the chaos.
He writes, I'll be there for you and my child. I love all mine. That one thing you ain't got to worry about. I'm going to be a great father to my children. So he wrote that letter and promised you in that moment that he was going to be a good father to his child and believed, it seems, that it was his child.
Judge Lake goes all in, asking, what were you thinking? She reminds them parenting isn't a joke and drops truth bombs left and right. Then she tees up the moment we've all been waiting for, the results.
And what is troubling me in this moment, I have done my best to be patient. I have been frustrated. And now you've gotten yourself into this whole big drama about the situation, much less be prepared to take care of a living child, this beautiful little boy, and this is babies having babies, and this has got to stop.
The room goes silent as the DNA results come in. Bam!
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Johnson, you are the father.
This case kicks off with a bang, and you're going to be glued to it. Judge Lake starts the case of Mackenzie Vieser's Guy, where Ms. Mackenzie accuses Mr. Guy of running off after their baby was born, because apparently he already has a small village of kids. Mr. Guy denies it all, saying he never believed he was the dad. Things are about to get awkward fast.
Ms. Mackenzie, you say Mr. Guy abandoned you and your daughter, Anaya, soon after she was born, and denies he's her father only because he already has too many kids. Mr. Guy, you say you knew this wasn't your child from the moment Ms. Mackenzie said she was pregnant.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, this is wild. Mr. Guy basically says, I've got enough kids, no thanks. Ms. Mackenzie shares that when she told him about the baby, he claimed it'd be his 13th kid, but now he's backpedaling, saying, nah, it's only 8. Either way, the math isn't mathing, and it's getting spicy.
Well, when I told him that I was pregnant, he kind of was shocked a little bit. Then he was like, she gonna be my 13th daughter. How can I take care of all of them?
His what child?
13th kid.
I told her I had 8.
And then it was they kept popping up. I even went to school
That
with
was
one
the
of his
other
kids.
dude.
No.
You went to school with some of his
With
kids?
his kids. We was in college together.
This next part is bananas. Ms. Mackenzie says that after they left the hospital, Mr. Guy dropped the baby on the floor in her car seat, said he had to run an errand, and never came back. Imagine coming home with a newborn and being ghosted like this, and you won't believe what else she says next.
After I had her, he was at the hospital and everything. When he brought us home, he just basically set her on the floor in her car seat. He was like, I gotta go run an errand, and he never came back. So he just left her there. He just left us there for months.
So you're there just caring for this child?
Caring for her.
Are you calling him?
Yes, I called him I called him so many times. He even at one point just stopped answering my phone calls.
Oh, here comes his excuse, and it's a doozy. Mr. Guy admits to ignoring Ms. Mackenzie's calls, saying she was harassing him about the baby. Even though he admits they were together, he's convinced the kid isn't his because of what he calls her lying ways. The blame game is just getting started.
Mr. Guy, have you been avoiding her calls all that time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why?
She was harassing me.
Harassing you about what?
Baby this, baby that.
Because she's your baby.
That ain't my baby, you know.
Were you sleeping with her?
I was sleeping
Were
with
you
her.
using protection?
No, Your Honor.
So how do you think you're excluded from possibility?
When the baby was born, I was at the hospital, looked at the baby, I said, this ain't my baby.
Here's where it gets messy, soap opera messy. Mr. Guy accuses Ms. Mackenzie of cheating, saying he saw men lurking around her place. She claps back, saying they were just friends giving her rides. If you think this is bad, wait until you hear what he says next.
Because the instance that I catch her telling lies. One time, me and my brother pulled up. She was sitting in the car with somebody, and they was there for a while because we was sitting up there watching them.
What were they doing in the car?
I thought they was having sex.
Really?
That night that he's talking about, I called him and he told me to come over to his house. When I got there, he was not there.
Enter Ms. Mackenzie's mom, and she's not holding back. She says Mr. Guy wasn't just a deadbeat. He was out clubbing while ignoring his kid. She even claims he'd disappear for days at a time. If you thought it couldn't get worse for him, buckle up, it's about to.
I'm really upset at Mr. Guy because he denying my granddaughter. She really don't even know who he is. And I did live with them for a while, and he goes to the club. He might not even come in for 2 or 3 days.
He says I stress him because I feel like if we're adults and we live together, we're trying to build a family, you should be doing your part as much as I'm doing my part. If we're a unit, we're a unit.
This part is a little ridiculous. Mr. Guy literally brings a school schedule as evidence. He's convinced Ms. McKenzie wasn't taking classes because the schedule ends at 5 p.m., but she'd come home at midnight. Ms. McKenzie fires back, explaining her packed days with school, work, and raising her kid. But let's be real, this Exhibit A feels more like Exhibit LOL.
As you see right here, Your Honor, 7:45, this is the actual schedule they be having. 7:45 a.m., that's when classes begin. And 4:55 p.m., that's when classes end, the last class.
And you say she didn't get home till midnight.
She didn't get home till midnight.
So where are you? Class don't last that long.
I have no idea.
And now for the I didn't sign it plot twist. Mr. Guy denies ever signing Ania's birth certificate, but Ms. McKenzie insists he was there during the birth, holding her hand and signing the papers. The court produces evidence with his name and signature. It's about to get real as we head toward the truth.
Do you remember them having you sign an affidavit or an acknowledgement of paternity?
No.
Just somehow your name got up on that birth certificate?
He held my hand through birth.
I'm just
He
seeing
said
where
he was
the
the only person
signature
there.
at.
He was the only person there when I had my
daughter.
daughter. He held my hand during birth.
And then just dropped you off at the house?
Like we was nothing.
Why did you even come to the hospital? If it wasn't your child, why even show?
Because he was at my house.
This is it, the big moment.
It has been determined by this court. Guy, you are her father.
This case is a wild soap opera in the making. Judge Lake introduces the Eggleston twins, who claim their dad, Rodney Eggleston, isn't their biological father. They're here for a DNA test, suspecting Rodney's claim is just a cover for financial issues. Drama and secrets abound, with no end to the twists.
You and your identical twin sister state that the man who raised you recently shocked you when he announced that he is not your biological father. You've petitioned the court for a paternity test because you believe finances are motivating your alleged father's claims. That you know for sure that the plaintiff's father is a white man and you are not their biological dad.
Imagine your dad loudly announcing you're not his kids at a family party. That's exactly what happened to the twins. Overhearing Rodney say, "Y'all know they're not mine," in front of everyone. They dismissed it as drunken talk until it turned into a courtroom showdown.
Well, it all started about a year ago at his birthday party. And we overheard him speaking to some of our family members saying, "Y'all know these not my kids." That's what he was saying. We heard him. Now we was listening. Saying to our family members, "Y'all know they're not my kids.
I'm down here raising." That's what he was explaining to the rest of our family members.
But our family members didn't say anything back.
Yeah,
Nobody said anything. It was just dry. But I'm thinking he's just speaking under the influence of alcohol.
Things get messier when Rodney recalls doubting their mom after overhearing her ask another man for money during her pregnancy. Despite the red flags, he signed the birth certificates and raised them. If you think Rodney's conflicted, just wait. It only gets wilder.
I was coming home one day and she was in the backyard barbecuing, and I noticed this big, beautiful smile. Made a date, you know. Eventually, we got together, and next thing you know, I'm living in her mama's basement, and not too soon after that, she's on the phone calling some guy out, telling him to send money. You know, I'm pregnant, and she's looking at me going like this.
The twins describe a rough upbringing, with no structure and a coach stepping in to buy their school supplies. Rodney defends himself as a struggling single parent, but the twins paint a picture of neglect. This isn't just about money, there's emotional baggage too.
You know, because my mom, she's gone. So even if whatever the DNA test shows, we don't even have her side, you know?
When did you lose your mom?
When we were 8 years old, in front of us, you know, away from our family, away from, you know, everything that we knew.
When your mom passed away, he did take you in.
Yes, and he took it. Later.
Rodney claims their pale skin and a rare condition suggest a white man is their real dad. The twins clap back, saying their research disproves his theory. A witness adds fuel, mentioning their mom's relationship with a white man, turning the drama into a full-blown circus.
And you know that a white man is their father.
Well, we went to a doctor, and she got marks on her back, and the doctor questioned. Scanned it,
Okay.
And they questioned. First thing she come out, the doctor, "Daddy, you sure y'all got the wrong babies? You know, you didn't get the wrong babies?" I said, "Okay, here we go again." You know, so I'm not the biological dad, okay?
Grandma Eggleston delivers a scathing video message, blaming Rodney for doubting the twins after raising them. Her words hit hard, and the twins share their pain over their mom's absence. Just when you think it can't get more emotional, the biggest twist is revealed.
Rodney said he's not the father. After 18 years, he should have said this from the very beginning when the first month when Sophia died. That's what he should have said when the twins were born. And I don't want Rodney to tell me ever again that he's not the father.
And that's true.
The twins expressed their desire for Rodney to be their dad. Despite everything, they discovered his secret journal, revealing years of doubt and pain. As DNA results loom, everyone hopes for closure, but tension runs high.
What you want going forward?
You know, I have always had that daddy's little girl mentality.
Yeah.
You know, coming from my point of view, I want him to be the dad, you know, because, you know, I'm always gonna cover from him, you know, but at the same time,
And that's the thing, has that over her.
Yeah.
Mr. Eggleston, you are their father.
With me, in my home. She lives with you now? Whoa!
Temporarily.
Because by God's law.
It don't have nothing to do with that.
My son loved her and that baby. And if there was anything in this world that I could do.
Like I said, I do not just say this is my nephew. If you go on my Facebook, his pictures are everywhere. That's not it. I'm not just saying that this is not my brother's baby. I want to make sure. You see how my aunt is looking? How she is crying? My whole family is like this. Because if I have doubts that is my brother, baby, I still want to be there.
Okay, buckle up, because this is one wild start. She's got major doubts about this whole thing and is ready to clear her son's name. You won't believe the twists that are coming.
Ms. Beversdorf, you have opened your case against Mrs. James to prove that her deceased son, Daryl, is the biological father of your 4-year-old son, Dakari. You say that once you prove paternity, Mrs. James better accept you both or she will never see Dakari again.
This part is heavy, but you gotta hear it. Ms. Beversdorf's really feeling the sting of rejection, and she says it's hurting both her and her son. Next up, Mrs. James drops her side of the story, and it's, let's just say, intense.
It's the whole denial thing that's affecting my child and me. They don't accept him, they don't accept me. I'm just ready for him to have acceptance, love. I want it to be real, not fake. And I just know once I get these test results and everybody will really know the truth. I want him to know and to really have that is his father. I never want him to doubt that.
Oh boy, here we go. Mrs. James brings up some major suspicions and is not holding back. Ms. Beversdorf is like, no way, I was faithful. But Mrs. James isn't buying it, and you'll want to hear her next accusation.
You say the doubts were brought because of Ms. Beversdorf?
Because of the relationship that they beheld in the time that he was with her, they always fighting, her seeing other people in between the breakup.
Nobody has proof of that though. I've never been seen with anybody else.
But when you were living in the house with us,
anything.
you're gone 2 weeks.
Just when you thought it couldn't get messier, Mrs. James throws in another bombshell. But Ms. Beversdorf is holding her ground, swearing she knows exactly who the dad is. You'd think that'd be enough, but oh no, there's more coming.
And I'm like, where's Kaylee?
No,
like,
I was gone 2 weeks.
Where?
My
With someone
sister,
else?
at my sister's house.
And when my
Wasn't with
son came
anybody
to
else.
your house, she came outside to talk to him, but she wouldn't let him in the house, and she made him leave. That was my...
Do you remember that incident, Ms.
No.
Beversdorf?
I know who my baby dad is.
How long were you together, you and Mr. Stevenson?
4.5 years.
Now, here's where things get really awkward. Still, Mrs. James is far from convinced, and her next point is even spicier.
The next week she came back to your honor, and now they're telling me that she was pregnant. And you want me to say, well, okay?
I was already pregnant when me and him split up for the 2 weeks.
But I mean, respectfully, how does Ms. James know that?
You and him then had a fight. She leaves for a couple of weeks, come back. Next thing I know, her and my son sitting in my kitchen telling me she's pregnant. And I'm looking like, by who?
The drama keeps climbing as the judge asks why Daryl didn't sign the birth certificate. Things are getting tense, and Mrs. James is about to turn it up even more.
Child,
Did
who
he
does
sign the
that?
birth certificate?
No. When the nurse came into the hospital room, he was at home, taking a shower, getting clothes. He only left the hospital for maybe 2.5 hours.
For the 2.5 hours he left was the one time came in with the birth certificate for him to execute?
Yes.
Mrs. James isn't done yet, and now she's accusing Ms. Beversdorf of ducking out of DNA tests. Mrs. James talks about trying to get a test done after Daryl, but Mrs. James swears she tried, and this whole scene is just one back and forth battle of who said what.
Now I have tried to get DNA 3 times.
She never tried 3 times.
Yes,
would've
I have,
taken
Your
DNA,
Honor.
get no DNA
Because she
test.
never shows up.
She never
What
let
happened?
me nowhere.
I didn't have to meet you nowhere.
She
I
never
told you
called.
where
She
the
never
place
said
was.
anything.
Ms. James, take Take me through each time. You say 3 times.
Yes, Your Honor.
Things are about to get even messier as Mrs. James remembers a second DNA test attempt that ended in chaos. Ms. Beversdorf cuts in, claiming she didn't know anything about this plan. Mrs. James is relentless, setting the stage for even more accusations ahead.
Tell me about the second time you requested a DNA test.
She never requested it a second time.
On a Monday, over the weekend or whatever, this particular second time, I asked her, hey, let's go to legal aid, help us, somebody to get us DNA so we can get Social Security started. We're supposed to do the test like Tuesday or Wednesday. I didn't see her till Friday.
Ms. Beversdorf is getting fired up now, saying she's absolutely sure Daryl is Dakari's dad, and she's fed up with Mrs. James doubting it. But just when it feels like they're going in circles, here comes a jaw-dropping new reveal.
And so you have no doubt in your mind Mr. Stevens is Dakari's biological father.
Well, I do. Not one doubt. Well, that's why we're here, because she does.
We surely are.
We didn't get to the third time.
And
When does
listen, why didn't she get a contract with you? Why didn't she write you? Why was it all me? So determined to get a DNA test.
Ask her when did we go to the Social Security office together.
Brace yourself. Mrs. James drops a bomb by admitting that Ms. Beversdorf and Dakari are actually living with her right now. But wait, things are about to get even more complicated as Mrs. James explains why she wants the DNA results.
She lives with me in my home.
She lives with you now? Whoa!
Temporarily.
Because by God's law.
It don't have nothing to do with that.
My son loves her and that baby. And if there was anything in this world that I could do.
All right, here it is, the life-changing answer everyone's been waiting for.
The percentage of relatedness between Mrs. Jacqueline James and Dakari is 99%. You are related.
Whoa, this is already bonkers. Ms. Chmielewski says she had a 5-year fling with Georgie, who sadly passed in a motorcycle accident, leaving behind their son Xavier. Get ready, this family mix-up is only just starting to heat up.
Ms. Chmielewski, you say you had a loving 5-year relationship with the defendant's son Georgie, who unfortunately died in a motorcycle accident. You claim the defendants initially accepted your son Xavier, but now need proof that they are Xavier's grandparents.
All right, buckle up. This story just keeps getting wilder. When Judge Lake asks about her connection to the defendants, Ms. Chmielewski says her son needs family because he already calls Georgie's mom Nana. Things are starting to get seriously tense, and you can feel the awkwardness in the room.
My son needs his family. He calls her Nana, and she's been in his life. We need answers. He has nobody.
Okay, let's keep it real, please.
Take me to the day you found out Georgie passed.
I was devastated, heartbroken, confused.
But why? I just making me understand one thing.
This part is totally eyebrow-raising. Mr. Long straight up says he doesn't believe this whole 5-year relationship thing and claims he's never even seen her at their house. Trust me, this story just keeps getting more tangled and confusing.
5-year relationship?
Why don't I know about you?
Never heard of her.
I've never seen you at my house.
Did you ever ask Georgie why you haven't introduced me to your parents?
No, because we were just friends. It was like a sexual friendship that we had for.
So how did you find out he passed away?
Yeah, no matter who we were with, we still had sexual relations.
You think this can't get crazier? Think again. Mrs. Brown says that 2 years later, a friend told them Xavier might be Georgie's kid, so she finally decided to dig into it. The crowd is definitely on edge, wondering where this is all going next.
What had happened was she says that this baby's Georgie's. 2 years passed. The only reason why I pursued this is because a friend of Georgie's told him, you need to find out if this baby is Georgie. So it's other people in the neighborhood must be saying something because he came to me after 2 years. He brought this to my attention.
It's like a ping pong match of feelings at this point. Judge Lake asks why they waited so long to get a DNA test, and Ms. Chmielewski explains she and Georgie tried to do a home DNA test but couldn't afford it before he died. The stakes keep rising as everyone realizes how messy this could get.
Because you feel like they don't know?
Want it to be Georgie. She wants it to be Georgie.
He and Georgie was doing a home DNA test a couple months before he had passed, and we couldn't come up with the money. After, I think it was like 5 months, then he had passed away. So then that's when I went to the...
How old was Xavier when Georgie died?
He was 2 weeks before he turned 1.
Plot twist. Just when you thought things couldn't get more tangled, Ms. Chmielewski drops the bomb that there's one other possible father, a guy who was tragically eliminated when she was pregnant. Courtroom can hardly believe this new twist, and everyone's ready to see what's coming next.
It can't be.
So there's one other man besides Georgie.
No.
Did you ever tell the other guy?
He had had passed away when I was 5 months pregnant. He had got murdered. A family member of mine had contacted his family. They did not respond. Xavier turned 2, and they said if I come up with the money, then they'll do the test.
It's heating up, and we're talking major drama now. Ms. Chmielewski says she tells Xavier that Georgie is his dad, showing him videos and calling him daddy. This is getting deep, and everyone's wondering what the DNA test will reveal.
Miss Chmielewski, when you talk to Xavier about his father, he's 2 now. Do you talk to him about his father? Who do you tell him his father is?
I tell him Georgie's. That he watches his videos, and I say, you know, that's daddy.
He calls him daddy.
Because either way, Georgie told me no matter what the results were when he was alive, that he was going to be in his life.
And now for the part that had everyone saying, wait, what? Mrs. Brown brings up this wild ghost video that Ms. Chmielewski showed her, where Georgie's spirit supposedly appears. You can feel everyone wondering, did she just try to prove paternity with a ghost?
Hey. What about the video?
The spirit video. What
video you showed me.
So now tell me about this video you mentioned.
This video is when me and my friends were sitting in the car.
She's trying to convince that there's a video with a spirit of Georgie in the video.
Because I feel like he is.
Is this the video? Hold on.
It's time to bring out the big guns. Judge Lake knows they're all waiting on the edge of their seats, so she reminds them they need this test for Xavier's future. This is the moment the whole room has been waiting for.
You understand, Miss Chmielewski, even if out of the kindness of her heart, even out of her grief, she says, just have the baby call me Nana. And the real truth is you don't know for certain. I have the results, and we can all find out for certain right now.
Boom, here comes the jaw dropper that leaves everyone in shock.
The percentage of relatedness between Ms. Brown and Mr. Long and Xavier Chmielewski is 0%.
Get ready, because this starts off intense and only gets wilder. We're barely a minute in, and already both sides look like they're about to throw down, and it's only getting started.
Miss Cameron, you tragically lost the love of your life 3 years ago and find yourself standing before me fighting to prove that he is your child's biological father. Furthermore, you claim you desperately need to determine paternity so that you can file for the death benefits to support your family.
Talk about family drama. Ms. Melvin goes into how her whole family is totally freaked out and upset by what Ms. Cameron's doing. With emotions running high, it looks like this family feud is only going to heat up from here.
I'm speaking for myself as well as my family. Disturbed us all. My mom would have liked to be here today as well, but very distraught. She just couldn't face it to come. Just the whole situation of losing my brother as well. We lost him, and just the whole situation of her getting pregnant, it just doesn't add up.
You don't think this child is his?
I don't think it's his.
And now we're hitting scandal territory. It's a major bombshell, and you can feel the drama rising, especially as Ms. Cameron tries to keep her cool with Ms. Melvin's doubts piling up.
During this time, your brother's in a relationship with Ms. Cameron. You know about her, right?
Correct.
And so you still feel like she's trying to get something that isn't entitled to her?
Well, there's a couple things. He had came to me, it was a month, and I work an urgent care, and I see a lot of stuff, so he told me. I said, are you sure he's like, man, I haven't done anything. I loved her.
This is one of the saddest and most intense parts so far. The whole courtroom feels the weight of her loss, but as sad as it is, the big paternity question is still hanging in the air, making everyone wait for more.
Miss Cameron, you said he passed away when you were 12 weeks pregnant.
Yes, and we did not know the sex of the child.
Had you told anyone?
Yes, I told my best friend April, I told my mother, and I told my father. I don't know who he told, but I know that's the 3 people I told. Said wait for a couple days to make sure, because it was a home pregnancy test that we took.
Just when we thought it couldn't get more complicated, here comes the timeline drama. With dates that don't seem to match up, Ms. Cameron is in for more challenges as they try to piece together what really happened.
So she's pregnant. I was taking her to her appointments.
He was my
and I brought calendar to show you some things from when we went to the appointment on June 28th. So from June 28th, with her due date of her supposed to be getting pregnant, this would have been when she got pregnant. And my brother was not even around because me going to an appointment with her and
you
getting
went to the
due
doctor
date.
with her on June 28th.
Yes.
And the doctor said she's 6 months pregnant.
Yes.
Things take a wild twist with this sign from beyond moment. It's a surprising, heartfelt moment, but Ms. Melvin isn't impressed, and it's clear she's still ready to throw down with more skepticism.
I have an ultrasound picture right here. I know this might sound crazy, but I posted it on Facebook. Okay, this is his face, like we're looking at each other. If you look in the eye, that is Jackie. Look at that bald-headed, and look at the bald-headed in the eyeball. And actually, there's another face right here that looks how fat Jackie's face was.
Cue another shocker, the mom's statement. Ms. Melvin brings in a signed note from her mom claiming she saw Ms. Cameron sneaking into a car with another guy before she got pregnant. With family members coming out with more accusations, the paternity mystery is only getting more tangled.
There was a time where, which I have a signed statement from my mom, because they live next door to each other, like creeping around the corner to get to a car which was with another man.
I was in love with Jackie. I would have never cheated on Jackie.
And it says, I am testifying that I do not believe Malachi Rathard is my grandson because I know Miss Cameron cheated on my son shortly before she got pregnant.
The twists keep coming as Ms. Cameron's best friend steps up to defend her. But Ms. Melvin's not convinced, and the whole courtroom is on edge, waiting for those DNA results.
That Miss Cameron was cheating with this other guy.
No, Miss Melvin, she was not cheating. This is my best friend. It's been my best friend for 16 years. Date did occur. She came to me and she told me because she felt so guilty about it. Hung out, talked, went to the movies.
But how do you really know she didn't have sex?
I can only go off what my best friend has told me, and she's never, that to my knowledge, has lied to me before.
Here comes the moment of truth, and everyone is holding their breath.
It has been determined by this court. Miss Duhamel is related to Malachi Rathard.
Thank you. Now do you believe me? I was being honest with you.
All right, buckle up because Ms. Kiles is bringing the drama right away. And just wait, because Ms. Light's about to drop some major accusations.
Miss Kiles, you have opened your case to prove to the defendant that her deceased son, James, is your 14-month-old daughter, Ava's biological father. You state that you know the defendant is in pain due to the loss of her son, but so are you.
Ms. Light comes in swinging, calling Ms. Kiles a liar and saying she can't trust her one bit on this whole James is the dad story. And get ready, because what she says next will hit you right in the feels.
Ms. Light, you say Ms. Kiles is a pathological liar, and you claim that as much as you would love for a piece of your son to be here, you don't trust that baby Ava belongs to him.
Oh man, tissues out. Judge Lake asks Ms. Light if she loves Ava, and she breaks down, calling Ava her heart. Next up, she'll explain why she's so suspicious.
Ava's 14 months old.
Correct.
Have you formed a bond with her?
Yes, that's my heart. My son was raising her. If she wasn't with my son, she was with me. But
the doubt is still eating away at you.
It's killing me. It was just a lot going on.
Get ready for some soap opera levels. Ms. Light recalls a time when James called to connect with Ava, but some random dude picked up and said he was Ava's dad. And as these two moms keep going, the room's about to get even more heated.
He came to me so many times. After he moved her to Oklahoma and got everything furnished, another man answered the phone and tried to claim to be Ava's father and be in her life now and all this other stuff.
That's why. So another man answered the phone and told your son, Ava's father, and I'm in her life now.
Things are messy as Ms. Kiles talks about drama over who could come into her house, a big point of tension when she and James were still together. And believe me, the room's about to get real heavy with the next part of her story.
You were having relationship issues in terms of boundaries. Take me to the point at which Ava was born. Was Mr. Miller with you at the hospital?
No, it was just me and my 2-year-old daughter.
Did you call him to say baby's being born?
No, he would have been there. That's something he would have never wanted to miss.
And this next part's like something straight out of an action movie. Ms. Light describes how James got shot while Ava was in the car, and somehow, miraculously, a bullet missed Ava by just inches. And Judge Lake, she's about to dig into the real deal with James's fatherhood.
All I know is something happened, some girls arguing, and another guy came and shot my son. And the girl tells me that all she could do was pull him into the car and drive off. And they kept shooting, so I know it was God, but I don't know what stopped the bullet hole from hitting my grandbaby other than God. Because it was a bullet hole that either the door or her car seat stopped it from hitting her.
Now, it's time for some heartfelt family talk. Ms. Light says her family took in Ava like she was totally one of their own, and you won't believe what she suspects next.
And so your son was raising her. He was her dad. She was in the car with your son.
Yes, just came and got her from me.
So you all were raising this baby. Like, this is your biological grandchild, this is your son's child, and he had her name tattooed on his face.
Ava.
Did he ever tell you that her legal name was Skylar?
No.
Ms. Light is practically crying as she talks about how James would buy all of Ava's essentials, even asking his mom to do her hair for special events because he was so proud. But wait till you hear what she says next. It's a plot twist.
He did everything for his baby. Cash, milk, everything for that baby. Everything. for Memorial Day. He asked me, he brought her clothes and stuff over there. Mama, can you do her hair in a couple of ponytails? Because he didn't allow nobody to touch her hair. Couldn't touch them curls. And she hung out with Grandma. She was with me.
All right, here's where things get weird. Judge Lake asks about another guy who Ms. Light says looks kinda like James, and apparently this dude was seen with Ava. And let's just say, things are about to get even more intense.
And you believe she has a different name because another man is her biological father?
Yeah, I think it's possible. The situation where she said it never happened, where some man answered the phone, some tatted over his eyes.
And so you felt like the guy looked similar to your son?
Somewhat, not as handsome, but...
Emotions are sky high as Ms. Light explains she's trying to confirm Ava's paternity to honor her late son and make sure Ava gets the family name. Hold tight, the DNA results are about to hit.
She didn't have to get that baby away because that baby would have been and is well taken care of. I just want that to be my grandbaby so we can do the right thing and get her name what it's supposed to be, Ava Jashay Miller. And that meant so much to my son, and that's why I know it, because I lost a daughter and her name Ashaya.
Judge Lake gives Ms. Kiles a final chance to share anything new, but she's cool and calm, saying she's already told her truth. What's coming next could change everything.
Ms. Kiles, I'm about to go to the results. Before I do, I just want to make sure that there is not any other piece of testimony that you've left out that you would like to share or you feel like you need to share.
No, Your Honor. I said my truth.
I think it's time we get the results. Jerome?
Here it is, the moment everyone's been waiting for.
It has been determined by this court. The percentage of relatedness between Ms. Light and Skylar Ava is 99%. You are related.
You wouldn't believe this one, folks. It's like a soap opera right from the start. The audience is locked in, and you know things are about to get messy with both sides ready to rumble.
Ms. Mayo, you're here today because you filed a paternity suit against Mr. Brown, who you claim is your 2-month-old fraternal twins, Chloe and Carter's biological fathers. You say when today's results prove your case, you want him to pay you $1,000 for half of the child rearing expenses.
Yes, Your Honor.
This backstory is bonkers. How did they get here? Mr. Brown says he hasn't paid a single dime because he doesn't think he's the dad, claiming she trapped him, whatever that means. This was no ordinary friendship, and with every new detail, it just gets crazier.
Mr. Brown, is that true?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why is that?
Because I don't believe they my children.
I don't know why you feel like that, and you know they're yours.
For one, I feel like she trapped me.
I never trapped. How did I trap him? I didn't want to have no child with you. So I wish I would have never got pregnant.
Why was you messing with me from the beginning? Why was you messing with me from the beginning?
Because at first we was friends. Why you putting on the show? Before any of this happened, we was friends.
Here's where the story goes off the rails a little more. This is truly some high-level drama. Judge Lake's eyebrows raise as these two argue over who said what. If you thought things were tense before, just wait.
We had a talk. I told her to go get on birth control.
You never told me that.
We go from the birth control. One day, I'm at her house, we just kicking it. You know what I mean? That she can't have no children. Her last child was never supposed to be here. How the doctor told her that she would never have children again. When she presented me with all this, I feel like I'm safety net. I got a safety zone. Like, okay, she can't have children.
Now it's time for Mr. Brown's very interesting reasons why he thinks he's not the dad. Judge Lake gives him a side eye as he tries to explain his eyebrow suspicions.
So what is your doubt?
They don't look like me for one. I got very distinct features.
Everybody in America knows that when newborns are born, they don't look like no one. Wonder what this is.
As you can see, I got very thick eyebrows. This is a distinct feature
they
of
was
me.
Just born. Look at Chloe's eyebrows. Look at Chloe right now.
This me. Thick eyebrows. This them.
This is getting good. This part is both sad and awkward because Mr. Brown doesn't even know that one of the twins, Chloe, was born deaf. This whole scene is intense, and it really feels like Judge Lake is about to give him a serious talking to.
Okay, he don't even know what's going on with Chloe. Chloe was born deaf. He don't know that. He don't know nothing. My child can't hear. Man, you can at least be there. I'm here with them 24/7 by myself. My child is deaf. Can't hear nothing at all. And you ain't doing nothing. When you find out today, what, like, are you gonna help do this? I gotta take sign language class. Do you know, like, man, you don't know. You don't understand what I go through.
Get ready to feel broke just listening to this part. It's all about the bills. The price tag makes everyone stop for a second, and you can see Mr. Brown start to sweat as it's starting to feel very real.
Okay, that's my expenses, like from their car seats, they strollers, clothes, bills, everything.
And you've been doing this by yourself?
Yes, ma'am. There's formula. They both on different milk.
So we've got clothes, baby needs, milk, toiletry, totaling $2,000, which is why you're suing Mr. Brown for $1,000 because he would be responsible for half if he's in fact the biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
It's the big reveal, folks, and everyone is on the edge of their seats. Seriously, it's intense.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Brown, you are the father.
Oh, buckle up, because this case starts with fireworks and finger-pointing from the get-go. Meet Ms. Everyone in the courtroom is watching, wide-eyed, as this emotional train pulls out of the station.
Ms. Sherman, you claim the defendant is taking advantage of your grieving aunt emotionally and financially by claiming your deceased brother is her child's father. You need today's results because you won't allow your aunt to support a child who is not your brother's.
Plot twist alert. Ms. Costello stands up. She's not here for Ms. Sherman's accusations. With every word, you can feel the plot thickening like gravy at Thanksgiving.
My aunt threw Marissa a baby shower, supports this baby financially, as in buying his diapers, his clothes. If he has a doctor's appointment, she is there, and that's not right if she doesn't know the baby is his.
Your Honor, that's his family. Erica was there with me at the hospital when I had the baby, and when Ryan was born, she saw the crown of his head and said, he is a Sherman.
Now, Ms. Sherman's aunt is on the stand, and oh boy, she's letting her emotions pour out. Meanwhile, Ms. Sherman's skepticism is about to hit a serious test.
When I seen the crown of that baby's head, I'm like, and I just started crying. I said, that's my baby. It don't replace him, but having him in my life, it helps me deal with him not being here. I need him to be Ryan's, because I can't say what will happen if it comes back that he's not, because that baby means so much to me.
Ms. Sherman's doubt is no joke. It's like she's building a wall, one doubt at a time, while the room waits to see who will break first.
For one, Your Honor, my brother told me that he doubted the baby because he wasn't for sure if Marissa was actually pregnant, and then he wasn't for sure if the baby was his. I'm not saying even that this is not my brother's baby. I love him, but I'm not finna get attached to a baby if I don't know, because I can't do that for me. I can't sit here and be like, that's a part of my brother, and then it end up not. But when we were in college, Your Honor, they were both unfaithful.
If you thought things were messy before, wait until you hear about Ms. Costello's love life with Ryan. It's a tangled web of love, hurt, and mistrust, and every detail adds another puzzle piece that makes everyone squint just a little harder at this story.
I found out I was pregnant in the middle of March. At that point in time, I contacted Ryan and I told him, hey, I think I'm pregnant. And at that point in time, he was like, well, is this my kid? It was a slap in the face because I know he had room for doubt, because when we broke up in the beginning of January, I started to talk to somebody else. He started to talk to somebody else. After me and the other guy had intercourse with each other.
Tensions are sky high as Ms. Sherman gets feisty with Ms. Costello over her dating history. It's a ping pong of accusations until Judge Lake steps in with a cool it, ladies, and shifts the focus back to the facts.
You just said you were sleeping with somebody else.
I know, but at the same time, I knew for the fact Ryan was the very last person that I slept with.
I never said Ryan was a saint. Y'all was both sleeping with other people. How you got no doubt you were sleeping with somebody else the next week?
You look at my son and you look at Ryan Jr., resemblance. When you look at Ryan Jr.'s baby pictures and you look at my son.
He doesn't look like my brother.
With emotions in the danger zone, Judge Lake takes the reins. This calculator just added a whole new layer of maybe to the mix. The tension is now so thick, you could spread it on toast.
So the best way to figure this out to go to my conception calculator.
Baby Ryan's birthday is October 27th, 2017.
I put that birth date in, October 27, 2017, and press calculate. Calculates the window of conception as February 1st to February 5th, and the date of intercourse between January 29th and February 5th.
If you were hoping things would calm down, nope. Ms. Sherman and Ms. Costello are practically nose to nose, clashing over who has the right to claim this child. But let's be real, the emotions are on full display, and everyone in the room can feel it.
Like I said, I do not just say this is my nephew. If you go on my Facebook, his pictures are everywhere. That's not it. I'm not just saying that this is not my brother's baby. I want to make sure. You see how my aunt is looking? How she is crying? My whole family is like this. Because if I have doubts that is my brother baby, I still want to be there.
Now, it's Ms. Sherman's aunt's time to shine, and she drops a little bombshell of her own. With every word, her belief in this bond grows stronger, and the drama in the room only deepens.
After my nephew died, and she was honest with me because she know me. I don't pick sides, and baby girl just tell me the truth. I know exactly when she said she had sex with Ryan. Then she told me she had sex with Ryan. She had sex with the boy at the beginning of January. Used her was she had a period in January, but didn't have a period in February. So she was confused.
Ms. Sherman is now wrestling with the possibility that her brother may not be this child's father. It's a gut-wrenching moment, and her raw emotions are setting the stage for what's coming. And now, the big moment.
Unfortunately, Ryan passed away before baby Ryan was born.
Yes.
Have you even considered that if this baby is not your biological family member, what will you do?
Honestly, I don't know. I have a bond with that baby.
The DNA test results are in, and bam!
It has been determined by this court. The percentage of relatedness between Ms. Nalencia Sherman and Ryan Costello Sherman is 97.8%. You are related.
Yes! After she got pregnant, a letter she sent them.
Wait a minute.
I sent the guy a letter telling him that I was pregnant, letting him know what was going on.
This is exactly why young people don't have no business making babies. You can't even tell the story to make no sense.
He was telling people I was just getting fat. He was like, she just eats a lot of fast food. Everybody was rubbing, my friends were rubbing my stomach. I'm showing ultrasounds to people. He's like, don't believe her, she's just fat. I'm going into labor. He's like, no, you're not.
What kind of denial is this? Mr. Lee, you taking denial too far.
Exactly.
Things kick off with some serious drama right from the start. Both sides are revved up and ready for a showdown, and you can just tell it's about to get messy.
Mr. Portis, you and your mother have petitioned the court for a DNA test because you are certain you are not the father of the defendant's daughter, Ava. Say your life has been ruined and need today's paternity results to set the record straight.
Here's where it gets even weirder with court dates and missed tests all over the place. Judge Lake breaks it down, letting them know that by not showing up, he automatically became the dad. Talk about drama.
This started about 2 years ago. I started paying child support, $75 for this baby, and I never knew if she was mine or not. We never took a DNA test.
You paying child support for this baby?
Yes, thousands of dollars.
But you say you've never had a DNA test?
No.
And that's because you had a court date.
And he missed. He missed the court date.
So you were named the father by default.
Yes.
Yep. This is when the tea gets spilled and everyone starts pointing fingers about secret relationships. You can feel the trust issues growing, and we're just getting started.
We started talking first and then eventually started dating. It happened fast.
At what point did you find out you were pregnant?
A few months later.
But when she got pregnant, we stopped talking. So like, after the fact that she got pregnant, she had hit me up and was like, hey, I'm pregnant.
We were definitely together. I called you after I got the text.
No, we weren't, because I found out that she had another boyfriend.
Okay.
Oh boy, now there's a mystery letter to her ex. Mr. Portis says Ms. Middlebrooks sent a letter to her ex telling him she was pregnant, which makes the timeline even messier. With all this back and forth, we're on the edge of our seats, waiting to see where it leads next.
How did you know that?
Because of, after she got pregnant, a letter she sent them.
Wait a minute.
I sent the guy a letter telling him that I was pregnant, letting him know what was going on.
This is exactly why young people don't have no business making babies. You can't even tell the story to make no sense.
Things get intense as Mr. Portis talks about not being there for the birth, and there's a lot of he said, she said going on. Judge Lake tells him he has to be responsible if he's the father. And boy, you can feel the tension building.
Were you at the birth, Mr. Portis?
No, I was not, Your Honor.
He had the opportunity to, but he wanted nothing to do with her.
Did you go to doctor's appointment?
No. He had nothing to do with the pregnancy.
She wasn't communicating with my family at all. Every time she would talk to us, she would be disrespectful.
Or any of that. She was not even
That's the
talking
only
to
time
my
she would
son.
talk to us.
Who was with you at the birth?
My ex was. He stepped up.
Now comes a plot twist. The ex was there the whole time. Ms. Middlebrooks explains her ex was super supportive and was there for Ava's birth, pretty much stepping into the dad role. It's only heating up, and we're not sure who's gonna end up stepping up here.
Oh wait,
But she wasn't messing with the ex though.
Yes. When I had her, yes, he was there.
So he was away, and then by the time you had the baby, he was home.
Yes.
But you gave
And you
my son
say he
opportunity.
stepped up.
Yes.
What?
Son wanted nothing to
He
do
was
with me
holding
or
her
the pregnancy.
and all that.
You do not know. You're not your son.
I
I'm
wasn't
not
in your
communicating
business,
with you.
but
I'm
I'm
communicating
his
with your
mom.
son.
I'm his mom though.
You not being truthful.
The family feud kicks into high gear, with both sides going back and forth. You can tell everyone's wound up, and we're all wondering if they'll be able to hold it together.
Middlebrooks,
Disrespectful.
I realize that you may not agree with Miss Trent, but you have to understand that when you are dealing with someone who's your elder, right or wrong, just keep your mouth shut.
That doesn't give her.
Hold on. I am going to be very clear.
Just when you think it can't get wilder, here comes the ex, calling Mr. Portis. With every twist, this case just keeps getting deeper.
Her ex that she was dealing with had contacted me on Facebook.
Okay. And what did he say?
He was basically saying like, yo, Bryant, Jasmine, does she have you on child support and stuff like that? And I'm like, yeah, she does. She's been having me on child support. He was like, well, that's crazy because I'm taking care of her too. So it's just like an imbalance here.
The courtroom is hit with a surprise as Ms. Middlebrooks admits she wasn't sure about the paternity herself. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife, and you can tell we're close to the big reveal.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Portis, you are the father.
Buckle up, because Ms. Shands kicks things off by saying she just has to prove Mr. Hollis is her baby's dad. But wait, you won't believe Mr. Hollis's response coming up next.
Ms. Shands, you appear in court today because you are devastated that your first love, and the person you lost your virginity to is now denying your 15-month-old son, Aiden. You say once you prove to the defendant that he is the father, you hope you two can finally be a family.
And here's where it gets real messy. Mr. Hollis and his mom say Ms. Shands is a pathological liar and that they already know who the real dad is. It's like a soap opera, but hold on, it's about to get even juicier.
Mr. Hollis, you are here with your mother and you both testify that Ms. Shands is a pathological liar and you both don't believe you fathered her son, but claim to know who did.
Just when you think things can't get wilder, Ms. Shands admits she had a fling with one of Mr. Hollis's friends, which led to a whole mess in their friend group. The audience is gasping, and Judge Lake is just shaking her head. And trust me, there's more to this.
Me and his was close friends once before.
But
she used to come back and tell me that Mr. Amir, he was messing with one of my friends. We both were young at the time. So,
both y'all young now?
Yeah, we still are young. But I thought it was cool to go mess with one of his friends because he had slept with one of mine. We both had made a mistake.
No. Brace yourself for this one. Judge Lake asks Ms. Shands if she used protection with Mr. Hollis's friend. And Ms. Shands says, nope, not at all. And yep, there's still a lot more to spill.
You have revenge sex with one of his friends. And did you use protection?
No.
And then how many times did you have sex with this friend of his?
Multiple times.
But were you also still being intimate with Mr. Hollis?
We had broke up. When me and his friend had an affair, we wasn't together. We was not together at all.
An affair.
And then it gets even trickier as Ms. Shire's about finding out she was pregnant and how she first told Mr. Hollis's friend, not Mr. Hollis. The lack of communication just adds to the mistrust. But trust me, the surprises aren't over yet.
So you find out you're 5 months pregnant. What happens? Who do you tell?
Well, first I told his friend because that's the person I was going with at the time. We ended up going out.
When she was going with my friend, she was still sneaking around with me anyway because I felt like he did it to me, so y'all together, I'm finna go and do what I gotta do.
Yeah.
Things get awkwardly dramatic here. Only Mr. Hollis's friend was at the birth, and Mr. Hollis didn't even know she was having the baby. The misunderstandings keep stacking up, but believe me, this story's got even more layers.
When you give birth, who was with you?
The friend was with me when Aiden was born, in the hospital, in labor.
Sent my mom there because I knew there was a possibility that my son could be the dad as well. He favored my son when he was born.
I wasn't never invited. Like, anything I ever found out about the baby, I found out by myself. Like, I didn't even know she was in labor. I had to find that out.
And now it's gone public. Ms. Shands says she was hurt when Mr. Hollis wrote a song that accuses her of cheating, and the song went viral. As if that's not enough drama, more about their beef is about to hit the fan.
Like, when I heard the song at first, especially the first song, I forgot how it started, but he put my name in it, the friend name in it, but he erased it and changed it to a whole different, and then he came out with the I
And we have some of the lyrics to that song. And I can't be cuffing Columbus hoe. About a year ago, I was in love with a thought.
Ms. Shands talks about how Aiden seems to have a real connection with Mr. Hollis, not the friend. And you can see Mr. Hollis's face soften as he talks about bonding with the baby. But wait, you'll want to hear what happens when they get the DNA results.
But every time he be with the other guy, he don't really be stunned him. He never showed the attention that he showed to Amir that he shows to the other guy.
And Miss Hollis, you say you tried to back off, but I see in this picture, you got the grandma face all over.
Finally, the DNA test results are in, and surprise.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Hollis, you are not the father.
From the start, you can tell this is about to be wild. Ms. Brewington steps up, saying Mr. Lee is definitely her son Giovanni's dad, and is dodging paternity just to skip out on child support. This is just the beginning, and things are about to get way more heated.
Ms. Brewington, you are here to prove your 3-year-old son Giovanni is Mr. Lee's biological child, and you claim Mr. Lee has been a father to your son since the day he was born and is denying paternity because he wants to avoid paying child support.
Ms. Brewington is 1,000% sure that Mr. Lee is the dad. No doubts, no questions. She didn't expect any drama when she got pregnant, but Mr. Lee's got a different story, and he's about to let it fly.
So, Ms. Brewington, you claim you are 100% certain that Mr. Lee is the father.
I am without a doubt 100% certain that he is my son's father. Not only was I only sleeping with him, we were actually working on our relationship. So when I found out I was pregnant, I didn't think it was going to be a shock or a surprise or anything like that.
You won't believe this level of denial. Mr. Lee says They weren't even cool like that when Giovanni was conceived. Judge Lake looks at him like, really? In the same bed, same house, but nothing happened? But Brewington isn't buying his story, and she's ready to prove him wrong.
At the time that Gio was conceived, we were not having no type of intercourse. We were not cool at the moment.
Your Honor, I was living with him. We were living in the same household, in the same bed.
Were you living in the same house?
Around the time, yes.
But you weren't together.
Exactly.
So were you sharing a bed?
Yes, ma'am.
And fluid.
No.
Clearly.
This moment is hilarious because Ms. Brewington finds out she's pregnant totally by accident. But if you think he's about to believe her now, you're wrong.
Okay, I found out that I was pregnant. I actually went to the doctor to just re-up on my birth control. I didn't even realize that they said that they had to do a pregnancy test before they could go ahead with the birth control. So I went ahead, they did a pregnancy test. I told him, he did not believe me at all. He went out and got 3 pregnancy tests, made me take all of them. They were all positive. And he was like, well, that's not my baby.
The way they argue over the dates is just too much. She's fed up with his cluelessness, but Mr. Lee is standing his ground like, no way, not my kid. And you can tell this argument isn't ending here.
So you seem so certain, Mr. Lee.
I do, because I'm gonna explain it to you, Your Honor. How she said her birthday is the 2nd of February.
It's not.
Her birthday's on the 2nd of February.
My birthday's on the 1st of February. My birthday is on the, how you gonna tell me what day I was born? I was born on the 1st of February.
He said it's 2nd.
Yeah, look, it's close.
It gets even crazier. Ms. Brewington says Mr. Lee wouldn't believe she was pregnant and told everyone she was just getting chubby. But of course, Mr. Lee has another excuse up his sleeve.
He was telling people I was just getting fat. He was like, she just eats a lot of fast food. Everybody was my friends were rubbing my stomach. I'm showing ultrasounds to people. He's like, don't believe her, she's just fat. I'm going into labor. He's like, no, you're not.
What kind of denial is this? Mr. Lee, you taking denial too far.
Exactly.
Just when you think he's out of reasons, here comes Mr. Lee acting interested the second he finds out it's a boy. But trust me, his next excuse is even wilder.
As soon as he found out that my son was a boy, he's like, oh, that's my boy. I love him. That's my son. I need to be there.
Was Mr. Lee there?
He came after I had given birth because he had work. But he showed right up. He actually didn't even, they asked about the birth certificate and everything. He signed the birth certificate. He named my son. Like, no, I'm not letting you give my son no dumb name.
This next part takes a real twist when Mr. Lee says Ms. Brewington's friend told him she knew the real dad, which got him doubting even more. At this point, this story couldn't get any messier, or could it?
One of her friends, a good friend of her, actually told me that I wasn't the father. She told me that she knows who's the father.
My friend told him that because she wanted to sleep with him.
I'm still talking.
I actually caught them sleeping together.
What?
This is the part where Ms. Brewington tries to prove things by showing baby pictures to compare Mr. Lee and Giovanni. But everyone's just waiting to see if the DNA will tell the real story.
So you're saying this is a picture of Giovanni on the left, and this is Mr. Lee as a child on the right?
Yes.
And you say you see a definite resemblance
between them two, yes.
They're light skinned.
You really don't believe he's yours now that he's here in the world?
No. I don't really see too much of me. Maybe, yeah, like I said, we got curls, but...
It's nuts to see Mr. Lee admit he's been around as Giovanni's dad, paying child support, all while saying the kid isn't his. The DNA test results are about to bring everything out into the open.
You're obviously responsible as it relates to child support because you signed the birth certificate.
I'm always there. I've never not been there. So he calls me daddy.
Calls you daddy.
Yes. Yes.
With all of that,
yes,
you still don't believe he's your biological son?
No.
Your Honor, that is his baby. And I can't wait, because the devil is a liar and this is Lucifer, so stop. No.
Well, you might be the devil then.
This is the big shocker.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Lee, you are not the father.
Told y'all.
Hold up.
I already knew it. I told you.
Here we go. Buckle up because this case is wild from the get-go. This intro sets up what's about to be a bumpy ride, so stay tuned.
Ms. Hooker, you are here with your mother because you say the defendant's son, Mr. Abraham, fathered your 10-month-old daughter, Kanaya. You say that Ms. Baker and her family's denial of this child has caused you pain, and you are here for an apology and to prove her son is the father.
Oh boy, here come the doubts, and Ms. Baker is not holding back. And trust me, things are only heating up from here.
Ms. Baker, you and your daughter are here today to represent your son, Mr. Abraham, because tragically, he was killed 3 months after the birth of this child. You say that before his death, your son expressed great doubt that he was the father of Ms. Hooker's baby, and you are here to put the lies to rest.
Ms. Hooker's got feelings, and she is laying them all out for the court. She also points out that her baby looks just like Keyshawn. So what's the issue? Emotions are running high, and you can bet there's more drama on the way.
I'm just sad sometimes. I
try to deal with it now. Like, I really don't care no more. Like, that's how I feel. I don't care anymore. I don't care who feel nothing about my baby. I don't care. It just seemed like everybody else looking upside my head like I'm an animal. Like, every time I'm sitting down doing something, they looking at me like I'm just outcast of the group. She looked like me, so why is it a problem? That's why I just say I don't care about nothing.
This is where things get real serious, and honestly, a little sad. But don't get too comfortable because we're diving right back into the mess.
My son was on vacation, and we kept hearing that Denia was pregnant, but then when we finally found out for sure, he told me, he said he wasn't the only boy that had messed with Denia. And he made me promise that we was gonna get a blood test, and things didn't go the way we thought they were gonna go.
And get ready for Miss Hooker's turn to clap back at those rumors. Just when you think it might calm down, the tension spikes again.
You know, cause that's why it's funny, because how can somebody tell me who I was sleeping with? Nobody in the room was in the room with me when I was sleeping with somebody.
Keyshawn only denied the baby when him and my daughter was arguing. Other than that, I have pictures with him laying on her, getting mad at what he tell his mother or nothing like that. He held the baby, kissed the baby, and loved the baby. We just need to get the results for Miss Carolyn.
Ms. Baker wants to clear her name, but you can still feel the tension brewing. But it doesn't look like the back and forth is ending anytime soon.
I'm not trying to do anything against anybody to make her feel bad. I ain't never been denying them. We never had a problem. She come stay the night when she feel like it, her and the baby, everything. They was just with me at my birthday dinner. Even though my son telling me I have never did or said anything to make her feel no bad.
Now we're talking about an obituary feud. Yep, you read that right. It's a serious hit to their relationship, and the room just gets tenser.
One of my family members was in the obituary, but my baby one. Y'all can keep my family member out the obituary.
Okay.
She said one of her family members was in the obituary.
But there was no mention of Kenia. Was this intentional, Miss Baker, Miss Bland? Was this something that...
like this, Judge. She went and finished up without me. Kenia did get left out. So did my grandmother, and so did one of my sisters.
All right, here it is, the big DNA reveal we've all been waiting for, and it's a bombshell.
It has been determined by this court. The percentage of relatedness between Ms. Baker, Mr. Abraham, and Kenia Abraham is 0%.
This is why right here.
Ms. Baker, are you all right?
Right from the jump, things are totally bonkers. This little detail throws everyone for a loop and gets Judge Lake and the whole audience sucked in. And trust me, it's about to get a whole lot weirder.
2 brothers could be the father. 2 brothers with the same name could be the biological father. This is a lot.
It is.
It really is.
When he came to me and he told me that he was my dad, I went to family members and I asked them, did you know that there was a possibility? They've all told me they believe Steve is my dad.
This next part cranks up the weight. What? Factor big time. But buckle up because his next proof is next level.
But Michael Shockley, you still believe you are Desiree's biological father?
Yes, Your Honor. She's always been my little girl, so she'll never not be my little girl. But like, I have all girls and he's got all boys. All boys and one girl. That's it.
Okay, now Michael tries to back up his claim with a family chart. Just when we think it's all laughs, though, Michael's daughter steps in to give her 2 cents.
You submitted a chart.
You like my chart?
So, Mike, you say you have all girls.
Yes, ma'am.
3 girls, and Desiree's right there in the middle.
Yep.
Steve, you have all boys.
Yes, Your Honor.
5 boys.
And one daughter.
He's serious about that one daughter.
And here comes Crystal, Michael's daughter, adding even more emotion to this family mix-up. Just when you think it's all family love, things take a sharp emotional turn.
Question, have you ever had any doubt in your mind? Your whole life growing up, you knew Desiree to be your sister?
Yes, our whole life, we fought as kids over who was more of a daddy's girl. She'd be like, oh, you're mama's girl. No, I'm daddy's girl. And you know, we went back and forth. We grew up with him. He's on our birth certificates. He's got our names tattooed on his neck.
Crystal doesn't hold back and drops a hard question. Why did Steve wait 2 whole decades to say anything? Her question definitely stirs things up, and it's Desiree's turn to let out her feelings next.
So to me, with this going on, I've always questioned why did he never come forward before? Why wait all this time? It doesn't make sense. Why would you wait 20 years to come up and say something? Why? That hurt us more than anything. If you were, why did you wait?
But why you blaming me? I mean, like I said a while ago, I would have told her years ago if they hadn't kept her from me.
Desiree's story about how this mess affects her whole family is truly tough. And boy, the next part is about to make this even sadder.
And now you have to live with the fact that you don't know that.
We've never been really close. That was the way that we were close. That it was the connection that we had. You know, we could always say that our Bubba, yeah, he's our Bubba, but we're closer. We have that bigger connection because we do share the same mother and the same father. So I feel like in a way it kind of broke a connection that we had.
Judge Lake is here with her wise, comforting words to help Desiree through this emotional ride. But just wait until science gets pulled into this family drama.
It's heartbreaking to the point that I feel like I've been lied to my entire life. I've been, like, my entire first 20 years as far as who my dad is has been one big lie.
Who do you call dad?
Steve.
Oh, you do?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you believe is your biological father?
In my heart, I feel like Steve is.
Out of nowhere, Judge Lake brings in Dr. Baird, a DNA expert, to explain the who's the dad science. Now, everyone's holding their breath as they get closer to the big reveal.
Difficult thing to do genetically to sort out which of the two is the true biological father. However, what we do at DNA Diagnostic Center in order to exclude one of the two individuals. And in this particular case, that's exactly what we did. We tested almost twice the number of samples of DNA that we normally test in order to exclude absolutely one of the two individuals.
Even with the stakes this high, Desiree tries to keep things hopeful by saying she wants both brothers in her life. But just as things start feeling cozy, her mom jumps in with a tearful confession.
Regardless of whichever it turns out is my dad, I still want a relationship with both of them. Just one is my uncle, one is my dad.
And you deserve that.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Shockley, Steve Shockley, if the results show you are not her biological father, will you regret ever mentioning this to her?
No, Your Honor.
Desiree's mom, Ms. Grove, comes in with a teary apology that makes everything feel 10 times more emotional. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for is finally here.
I can't explain it. I wouldn't like to be her dad because they've always had such a strong bond. You know, her growing up, you know, I can't change the past. I'm sorry for a lot of things, but in my heart, I feel like Mike is her dad. I just want Desiree to get the answers that she needs.
I'm glad, because I want you to get the answers you need.
Everyone holds their breath as Judge Lake reveals the DNA results, and the room is totally silent.
It has been determined by this court. The biological father is Mr. Steve Shockley.
Yes! Baby.
This one's a doozy as Ms. Hines spills the beans on their Christmas Eve hangout. But buckle up because this back and forth gets even juicier.
Christmas Eve, we had sex in the car. After that, I told him that I was pregnant. He basically said that he gave me a Christmas gift because he didn't give me anything for Christmas.
More than likely, I always be with my family on Christmas because we have like
This is
traditions.
Christmas Eve and not Christmas. We agreed to be with our family on Christmas.
Things get even crazier when Mr. Jackson claims Ms. Hines was shacking up with another dude. The story's already wild, but wait, Mr. Jackson's about to accuse her of even more sneaky stuff.
I'm disagreeing on both behalves because she was living with another male, so it's kind of like hard to like judge her because like.
So while you all were in this relationship or just having sex in the car, she was in a relationship with somebody else.
Yeah, it was a relationship. She had another male living with her.
Mr. Jackson doesn't hold back, saying he snooped around her place and found a box of condoms. Just when you think that's the end of it, Mr. Jackson has even more to say about her behavior.
And it was a time that like I was snooping around her house and because she had said it was taking some stuff to store it. I seen a box and in that box it was some condoms in the box and I thought she was like.
So you thought at that point that man and her were having sex?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, that is true.
Now it's Mr. Jackson's turn to act like a spy, talking about all the times he caught Ms. Hines texting other guys. And he's got a whole lot more drama up his sleeve.
And I was on vacation one time, like I was snooping around and I got a phone and I seen like she was texting numerous people. So I had snooped and went through one of the texts and I seen like she was texting this guy and he was like calling her bouncy.
You're doing a lot of snooping.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're snooping, why are you even with her then?
I've just seen so many things that seem shady.
Here's where it gets really spicy. Mr. Jackson fires back, saying her messages with her ex were making him insecure. If you thought that was the end of it, nope, it's about to get more complicated.
He's calling me whore or hoe, whatever, sleeping around. But that's what he's been doing since we got together.
So from the looks of these messages, it seems like you entertaining these women.
The reason why I did what I did because like she had messages in her phone from her other fella that was talking about working on their relationship.
Ms. Hines' best friend steps up and wow, she does not hold back. The court is not impressed with Mr. Jackson's support and we're all waiting to see what excuse he'll come up with next.
I know she's been pretty much taking care of him by herself with my assistance. Her mother, no help from him.
I do most of the babysitting.
This woman is
He's paid
irrelevant.
me twice for babysitting. $10 a piece, both times. I'm more of a father to this child than he is.
When Mr. Jackson admits he didn't feel a bond with Matthias because the baby didn't look like him, you can almost hear everyone's eyes rolling. The judge doesn't let that slide, and things start to get real as Ms. Hines speaks from the heart about her son.
Mr. Jackson, did you go to any doctor's appointment?
Yes, I did.
Yes. Were you there at the birth?
Not at the birth, but I came after the birth.
And when you saw the baby, what did you feel?
I really didn't feel a connection because like he didn't have really much of my features, and I seen that he had like a blondish orange hair, and that's just not my family.
Okay,
so
but
I had
if
a
you
reason
didn't
to
feel a
doubt right
connection
there.
from the beginning,
Yeah.
why didn't you take the paternity test when she offered to pay for it?
Ms. Hines gets emotional as she explains that Matthias deserves to know his family, especially since he doesn't have other boys in his life. This tugs at the court's heartstrings, but before anyone can get too sappy, the judge turns to Mr. Jackson for his big response.
My son needs a father. He needs to know who his people is, where he comes from. It ain't just me. Like, we have no boys in our family. Like, he got little cousins he could play with. Like, after today, he still don't have to be in his son's life. It's fine, but I need him to know and his people to realize that you do have a son.
Judge Lake asks Mr. Jackson what he'd do if Matthias turns out to be his son, and Mr. Jackson hesitates, saying he'd want to be involved if he is the dad. It's a big moment, but with the DNA test right around the corner, things are about to get intense.
If, in fact, Matthias is found to be your biological child.
My intentions, I would love to have a son because I have a daughter already. I don't really get to spend much time with her, and because she's out of the city, and like at least try to make things work out with Rachel. But these accusations and the things that I've seen in the past was holding me back.
This is the bombshell moment.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Jackson, you are Matthias's father.
At least, like, if I can get a hug.
First of all, why would I have sex while my daughter was in the ride with me? The chair moves. Come on. I'm not that dumb.
Yeah, let me get my point straight. Then why did my 7-year-old daughter come tell me straight to my face that you're jumping up and down some dude's lap?
I was told that her ex was in the bed.
While you're out fishing?
Yes.
Who told you that?
A family member.
How would they know who I had in my bed?
They seen him.
Yeah, coming out of the house because you and him are friends, and you know
That's not her.
everything.
That's not
You
him.
know that he was at my house,
It is
even
not
when you
him.
were
I'm
there
not talking
too.
about him.
She gave me, actually, I have a list of men. It's about 6 or 7 guys.
67?
About 6 or 7.
I said, wait a minute now. She gave you 6 or 7 names.
Yes, Your Honor.
Of possible fathers.
Yes, Your Honor. One of them, we had to do a DNA test, and turned out he wasn't my father.
This revelation sets the stage for a tense hearing. Mr. Connor is up in arms, convinced he's not the daddy of the child in question, highlighting how this mix-up has turned his life and wallet upside down, including a stint behind bars for missing child support payments. But wait, there's more! Ms. Wallace's clapback is just a moment away.
Mr. Connor, you say a one-time fling with the defendant turned into more than 15 years of child support payments and even jail time for a child you have never believed is yours. You need today's results to prove you are not her child's father.
The plot thickens. Emotions start to boil as Mr. Wallace admits his trust in his mom, but can't shake the doubts recent actions by Mr. Connor have stirred up. Mr. Connor lays it all out, detailing the injustices he feels he suffered, ramping up the emotional intensity of the hearing. And guess what? It only gets juicier from here.
Mr. Wallace, you say you trust your mother, but acknowledge Mr. Connor's recent actions have given you doubt. Mr. Connor.
Today's results are so important, Your Honor, because I need to undo a terrible injustice that's been inflicted upon me and my family. It's caused a lot of problems, financially especially.
Yikes. Talk about a tough break. Mr. Connor paints a grim picture of his financial woes and the domino effect of his jail time due to unpaid child support, including losing his home and job. This saga has seriously shaken up his life, but keep your eyes peeled because the confrontation that's coming up next is a doozy.
It's times when I can't afford things. I've even been to jail. 2005, November the 5th until January 2006. There was no home for me to go to. I lost my car, I lost my job. I was 36 years old. I had to start all over. It's making my character look real bad, Your Honor. Know for a fact that she know he's not mine.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's getting bumpy. A fiery exchange erupts where Ms. Wallace accuses Mr. Connor of trying to dodge child support while he vehemently denies being the father. The courtroom is charged with emotional accusations, and finger finger-pointing about responsibilities and past actions. And trust me, the tension is far from over.
Your Honor, he just wants off-child support. For one, it was more than just a one-night fling.
You know Jeffrey isn't my child, and I have you on Facebook.
You can quit pointing your fingers because I'm an adult.
No, you're not. What kind
I'm
of adult?
42 years old. I raised my 3 kids by myself.
You won't believe your ears. Mr. Connor swears the encounter with Ms. Wallace was a brief fling that definitely didn't lead to conception, challenging the story she's been telling. He's adamant it was a one-and-done deal. But hold on, because Ms. Wallace's memory of events paints a whole other picture.
Can you tell me about that? Do you remember this relationship, encounter?
There wasn't a relationship. I met her through a family member. We all used to hang out a little bit here or there in the fall. We came together one time, and up on penetration, she changed her mind, and that was that. I never knew anything about Jeffrey.
This twist might just make your jaw drop, contrasting sharply with Mr. Connor's version. Ms. Wallace reminisces about what she remembers as a year-long romance filled with plenty of encounters, complicating the story even further. She even brings up the moment she found out she was expecting. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more tangled, the explosive confrontation that follows will have you on the edge of your seat.
Remember him and I being in a whole year relationship, and we had sex numerous of times, Your Honor. And he did know. Well, I got sick. How I found out that I was pregnant. I got sick. My mom taking me to my doctor's appointment, and that's when I found out I was 2 months pregnant. I called you and I told you. Back then we had pagers. Shut your lying butt up.
The drama doesn't stop. As the hearing unfolds, we dive into the nitty-gritty of Mr. Connor's sparse interactions with Jeffrey and the ongoing squabbles over paternity and child support. This segment lays bare the complex personal and legal entanglements involved. Keep watching, because the bombshell verdict up next will have you saying, no way.
And you agree to that, Miss Wallace?
Yes, ma'am.
That happened.
Your Honor.
And during the time from 3 to 4 months, 5 years old, did you all ever have conversations about Jeffrey at all?
Yes, me and her had a
He
couple
told
of
me that he wanted to be in his son's life. I told him I did not want to be in a relationship with him, you know.
You're a professional liar.
Here it comes, the big reveal everyone's been waiting for.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Connor, you are not the father.
I already knew it.
Judge Lake dives into the drama, chatting up Ms. Brown, who's suing her mama for a cool $2,200 because, get this, she doesn't know who her daddy. The courts sniffed around and found a dude who might be Pops. And now, they're all about figuring out if they should send him for a paternity test.
Ms. Brown, you're here today suing your mother for $2,200 for emotional distress. You say she's caused you by not knowing who your biological father is.
Yes,
now, the court has located one possible father and must determine if there is enough evidence to order a paternity test.
Ms. Brown spills it all about taking her mom to court, saying it stings less than her wonky childhood. She throws some serious shade at her mom for playing peekaboo, basically never being around and keeping Dad's identity a big ol' secret despite her constant nagging.
So, Ms. Brown, how does it feel to be suing your mother?
Not as bad as it felt growing up. My mom she wasn't there as much as she should have been there. I asked her on several occasions, do you know who my father could be? My mama just said, I don't know. Every time I asked, it was, I don't know. She gave me, actually, I have a list of men. It's about 6 or 7 guys.
Ms. Brown brings out a list, yeah, a literal list of 6 or 7 potential daddies. Plot twist, one guy already flunked the dad test, DNA test, that is. They're zeroing in on Mr. Clifton Smith, who's also in the courtroom, sweating bullets probably because he hasn't been tested yet.
She gave you 6 or 7 names of possible fathers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Are they ranked in order of probability?
No, ma'am, they're not, Your Honor. One of them, we had to do a DNA test. Turned out he wasn't my father.
And is he listed on this?
Yes, ma'am.
Which one is he?
He's the first one.
The man in the Navy, Lee.
Yes, Your Honor.
Not the father, proven by a DNA test.
Shantia lays it all out about how rough her life's been, from bouncing around foster homes to quitting school to nurse her sick grandma. This whole not knowing dad business really did a number on her.
I was in and out of foster care on 3 different occasions. Foster care wasn't so good, you know. I had 4 brothers and a sister. I didn't know where they were. They got split up too. My grandmother got us back. She got sick. I missed 3 months of school. I was in alternative school. I got kicked out because my grandma got sick and I had to take care of her.
Mom, Yolinda Overstreet, gets back with some real talk about her struggles with the mom gig. She admits she was pretty much winging it, overwhelmed by raising 6 kids and just not nailing it.
Ms. Brown Overstreet, how does it feel to hear your daughter speak with such pain in her heart?
I feel like my daughter hates me because of
the fact that I wasn't always there, and I didn't have a handbook on how to be a parent. I had my kids young, and it was 6. I have 6 of them, so it wasn't like it was just one child. I had a hard time trying to be a mother. I didn't know how to raise my kids, and when I lost custody of them, I tried my best to get them back.
He waltzes into the courtroom and shares a wild first encounter with Ms. Brown, thinking she might be his daughter and all that jazz. Despite the mix-up, he's all heart, hoping he's the dad.
We go back a long time. So when I called her, she was like that she was trying to find the father of our daughter. I said, wouldn't it be funny if I was the father? And she was like, oh yeah, I forgot all about you. So when I pulled up, I get out the car and my cousin pointed her out. So I was looking at her. So she came up and I said something to her first, and she was smiling at me like I was trying to flirt with her or something. So I'm like, oh, whoa, hold up here. I might be your father. You busy trying to flirt with me.
Mr. Smith tells a tale of a gnarly injury that had doctors saying he might never be a dad. So the plot thickens with whether this guy could even be the father. The court calls in a doc to drop some science on us.
Okay, my reason is when I was 10 years old, I hurt myself really bad. Well, I was folding it back into a couch. My underwear got hooked on a spring and I yanked it, but it went in a lot more of my underwear and just ripped everything open.
Oh, goodness.
That
was the problem. It was horrible, so I didn't remember even having sex with him. So it wasn't my fault that I didn't remember. He probably remembered it, but I didn't remember it.
Dr. Gator, cool as a cucumber, explains how Mr. Smith might still shoot and score as a dad despite his earlier mishap, thanks to how nature works. Looks like the court's all set to make Mr. Smith take the big daddy test.
It's absolutely possible, in my opinion, for Mr. Smith or someone with a testicular injury such as him to father a child. On average, a man releases anywhere between 50 million and 1 billion sperm at a time. So based on the numbers, it's definitely possible for someone with a testicular injury to still father a child, as long as the swimmers are normal and healthy.
DNA results are in, and guess what?
It has been determined by this court, Mr. Smith, you are not Shantia's father. I'm sorry.
Ms. Hernandez drops a bombshell that her estranged hubby started denying their 3-year-old munchkin, Ligana, only after eyeing a younger chick. This accusation frames the emotional and legal stakes of the proceedings.
Ms. Hernandez, 4 years ago, you met and then married your much younger but seemingly perfect man. You say your estranged husband started denying you and your now 3-year-old daughter, Liana, only after he found another younger woman.
Mr. Hernandez claps back with an accusation of his own, claiming Ms. Hernandez played house with other men while he was off playing sailor on a fishing boat. This introduces the core conflict regarding the paternity of Ligana and their crumbling trust.
Mr. Hernandez, you claim that during the marriage you often spent weeks at a time on a fishing boat for work, only to find out upon returning home that your wife had other men in and out of your house while you were at sea. You and your girlfriend are here to prove Liana is not yours.
We find out Ligana is 3 and missing her daddy big time, which highlights the emotional toll this mess is taking on her.
It's heartbreaking. It's hard for me to put my daughter down to sleep. All she does is says, dad, 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 all day.
How old is she?
She's 3. She'll be 4 in December.
But the man you believe is her biological father is denying her.
Yes. I don't know what to tell her, Your Honor.
Do you know that this young child is calling out for you, Mr. Hernandez?
No, Your Honor.
We dive into how Ms. Hernandez met Mr. Hernandez, showing us the start of their whirlwind that quickly went from sweet to sour.
How did you all even meet?
I was at a friend of mine's house. He comes up about an hour later walking up to my friend's house.
Okay, so he came over your friend's house.
Yes.
And you met him?
Yes.
Did you immediately hit it off?
Yes.
So Mr. Hernandez, you liked her, she liked you, you all started a relationship.
Yes.
Later on got married.
2 years later.
So you got married 2 years later?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez starts doubting baby Ligana is his, all thanks to neighborhood gossip about Ms. Hernandez's ex snooping around their home while he was away.
I was told that her ex was in the bed.
While you're out fishing?
Yes.
Who told you that?
A family member.
A family member of yours or hers?
Mine.
How would they know who I had in my bed?
They seen him.
Yeah, coming out of the house because you and him are friends. And you know everything.
Her. That's not him.
You know that he was at my house even when you were there too.
I'm not talking about him.
The hospital scene turns into a reality show when family members allegedly tell Mr. Hernandez he's not the father right after Ligana's birth.
What happened at the birth?
2 family members came to the hospital and told me that's not my kid.
Which family members of whom?
Hers.
Hers?
Who?
Your mother.
Your mom? Oh, wait.
Because my mama doesn't like you.
Okay then.
They argue over why Ligana didn't get Mr. Hernandez's last name, suggesting Ms. Hernandez had her doubts from the get-go.
You want her to have your last name.
I literally argued with her at the hospital.
No, you didn't.
Then why did I was gonna sign the paperwork to do it for you on the birth certificate and you said no?
Why did you sign it when you knew I had put her last name as Lamont? You shouldn't have signed it.
Judge Lake calls out the inconsistencies in Ms. Hernandez's tales, making everyone in the courtroom scratch their heads.
This testimony you are giving right now is faulty, right? It is not adding up to me. And I need answers. I need to understand from you. Is there any other possible father for your daughter besides Mr. Hernandez?
No.
The DNA test results are announced.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Hernandez, you are the father.
Told you.
Buckle up, folks. Mr. Nicholas kicks things off with a bombshell, doubting he's the dad to little Naomi and Nathaniel because, well, Mrs. Nicholas has been a bit too social. He lays it all out, accusing her of sneaky shenanigans with just about everyone, from strangers to his office buddies. The crowd's gasping like they're watching a soap opera, and you can almost hear the popcorn crunching. Wait till you hear what's next. It's a doozy.
You have brought your wife to court today. You claim you cannot be the father of 4-year-old Naomi because your wife is a habitual cheater and she cannot be trusted. You say you have shocking evidence of your wife's outrageous sexual infidelity, including encounters with strangers in public places.
You're not gonna believe this one. Mrs. Nicholas steps up, admits she goofed big time, but hey, she's seen the light, found religion, and is ready to turn over a new leaf. She's all about proving Mr. Nicholas is the daddy and fixing this hot mess of a marriage. Her plea has the courtroom holding their breath, wondering what's next. Hold on to your seats because this ride's just getting started.
Mrs. Nicholas, you actually admit you've made some mistakes in your marriage, but you claim you have now turned your life around and you are a church-going woman who deserves another chance. You state that once these DNA tests prove Mr. Nicholas is the father of all of your children, you are hoping to repair your marriage.
Oh boy, here it comes. Mr. Nicholas drops a juicy tidbit about a rather awkward encounter at his sushi job. Picture this. He's slinging sushi rolls when a random dude claims Mrs. Nicholas is turning the bathroom into her personal love den, stuck at work like a fish out of water, unable to confirm the sordid tale. Just wait, next twist is even wilder.
Let me tell you this first of all. You know, the sushi spot I used to work at, it's a hot silk. People come in and then out. Some guy comes up to me and tells me straight up to my face that my wife is performing oral sex in the bathroom. Yeah.
Wait a minute, you're at work, the sushi restaurant, and a guy just comes up to you.
And tells me that she's performing oral sex in the bathroom.
Hold up, rewind.
During your shift, and then you did what?
I continued working. What am I supposed to do? I couldn't leave my job.
Talk about awkward. Mr. Nicholas tells a tale taller than a roller coaster about his wife supposedly getting frisky on a theme park ride while their kiddo was right there. Mrs. Nicholas calls bull, arguing who in their right mind would pull such a stunt with a kid tagging along. The plot thickens, and you just can't make this stuff up. Up next, it's more, he said. She said with an extra helping of scandal.
She went into the Transformer rides with my 7-year-old daughter. Tell you that straight up. Tells me straight to my face that my wife was having sex in the ride.
First of all, why would I have sex while my daughter was in the ride with me? And the chair moves. Come on. I'm not that dumb.
Yeah, let me get my point straight. Then why did my 7-year-old daughter come tell me straight to my face that you're jumping up and down some dude's lap?
Here we go again. Mr. Nicholas isn't done yet. He's got more dirt. This time, he's dishing about his wife and his pizza place manager cooking up more than just pies behind his back. Mrs. Nicholas admits she was looking for a slice of attention he couldn't serve up. But don't go anywhere, because there's more saucy secrets coming up.
For example, the pizza joint I used to work at. She was having an affair with my manager.
Oh, yes. I'm being honest with you. Yes, I did have an affair. On top of that, every time I try to talk to you, you just not there for me.
Yeah, just because he's been buying you diapers, all that.
Diapers? Yeah, every time I ask you, you just take off. You spend your money on something else. That's what you do.
And then
because I'm stressed out because
you ask his co-worker to get you some diapers.
Grab your popcorn. This is getting good. Mr. Nicholas, deep in thought, wonders aloud if chatting up another lady about his woes counts as stepping out. The judge lays down the law. Yep, that's emotional cheating, buddy. Mrs. Nicholas owns up to her past flings, hoping to clear the air. You think this is juicy? Just wait till the next part.
Can I ask you one question? Is it cheating if I were to go kick it with another female and just talk to her about my problem? Is that considered cheating?
There's emotional cheating too, Mr. Nicholas.
I know I've been with other guys, but I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I know I messed up in the past. That's past.
Okay, can you please just explain to me what about the dude you slept with that looks dead on just like me?
Oh, I meant that one.
Oh, it just keeps getting not better.
Get ready for a curveball. The spotlight shifts back to the kids. Mrs. Nicholas is dead set on proving these munchkins look just like Mr. Nicholas, hoping it'll squash his doubts once and for all. The tension's through the roof as they duke it out with words, each hoping to clinch the win in this paternity puzzle. Fasten your seatbelts. We're about to dive into the results.
Do the DNA and prove him wrong, because I'm getting tired of him saying that, oh, they're not my kids. Come on, they just look like you.
But so does the other guy you slept with. Do you understand why he potentially, maybe, could have some doubt?
Because I cheated on him, but all the time when I was
kids don't look like me though.
They look like me, that's why. Come on now.
No, there's gotta be a part of it where the kids gotta look like me.
And here's the tearjerker finale.
It has been determined, Mr. Nicholas, that you are his father.
Exactly, I told you. God.
Right off the bat, Mr. Johnson spills the beans about his mega doubts concerning his fiance's daughter, Camilla, suspecting she might actually be his fiance's ex's kid. He lays it out clear. If the DNA test proves she isn't his, he's hitting the road. No looking back. Grab some popcorn, because this drama's just heating up.
Mr. Johnson, you claim you are here today with a relationship on the line. Now, you are convinced your fiance's 8-month-old daughter, Camilla, was fathered by her ex-boyfriend and not you. If the DNA results prove your deepest fears are true, you say you plan to leave her and never look back.
Now, Mr. Johnson's talking money. He wants Ms. Quintero to cough up $275 for kiddo expenses. Camilla isn't his. He's been playing daddy, but keeps one eye on the exit, just in case. Stick around, things are about to get even juicier.
Mr. Johnson, you're asking the court to award you $275 in back child care expenses. If the results prove Camilla is not your daughter, you'd like Ms. Quintero to pay you back.
Flashback to a rocky romance roller coaster. Mr. Johnson and Ms. Quintero's love saga has more twists than a pretzel. The bombshell drops, she's pregnant, but the timing's all shades of wrong. Mr. Johnson's reeling, and you'll want to see what comes out when they air more dirty laundry.
I say about a year ago, we ended up talking again. She calls me up one day, and she's like, hey, I'm gonna go look for some apartment. You should come with. I was a little busy at the time, so I told her no. I got stuff to do, I can't do it. I called her back later, and she never picked up. She calls me up on the phone and like, hey, I'm pregnant. I was at my brother's house, we were having a little get together, we're drinking, just having fun. I tell her right away, hey, I gotta call you back.
Court turns into a soap opera as both admit they weren't just playing house with each other during baby-making season. Mr. Johnson whips out a calendar, trying to prove he might not be the dad based on the X-File timelines. Buckle up, the next revelations are gonna be wild.
So, during the window of conception, did you have sex with Mr. Johnson and your ex?
Yeah.
Mr. Johnson, when was your daughter born?
My daughter was born November 6, 2013.
What are you holding?
I just had a calendar. It just states when Cammie was born. The 2 months at the top is midway when me and Maria started talking in March, and February was the month when she was with her ex.
Workplace chit-chat turns Mr. Johnson's doubts into a full-blown conspiracy theory about Camilla's real dad. He's thinking of ditching the engagement if the kid ain't his. This roller coaster's got a few more loops. Watch how they handle the next curve.
I'm at work and I have people coming up to me like, hey, your girlfriend was with this guy at this time.
What do people at work know about your business?
I publicly display my daughter, and everybody in our community pretty much knows Maria was with that other guy a long time.
But I was with him for 3 years and never got pregnant.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it can't
it's just
happen.
like the time I get with him for about 2 to 3 weeks, I get pregnant, but yet me and you.
Ms. Quintero throws a curveball, accusing Mr. Johnson of only playing the not my kid card when he gets caught flirting. She's calling him out, saying he's got a convenient case of daddy doubt. The tension's thick. You won't want to miss what's tossed out next.
So usually he denies her when we're arguing. That's what I feel like. When we're arguing about him talking to other girls, so are you trying to just push it on me like, oh, she might not be mine because you just got caught talking to another girl?
Oh, Your Honor, it's not like that all the time. I've brought it up.
What is it like?
I brought it up plenty of times. There'll just be times I'm like holding her and I'm just like, man, you just don't look like me.
You're too pretty to be mine.
Finally, the moment of truth.
In the case of Johnson v. Quintero, when it comes to 8-month-old Camilla Johnson, Mr. Johnson, you are her father.
Ms. Webster steps up and drops a bombshell. She thinks Mr. Ware might actually be her dad. Talk about awkward family dinners. She's all in, hoping today's DNA results will spill the tea. Brace yourself because this family tree is about to get shaken up.
Ms. Webster, you recently learned shocking news that Myron Smith, the man you believe to be your dad and who paid child support for you, may not be your biological father. Now you've dragged the defendant, Mr. Ware, to paternity court to prove that he is your father and claim today's results will prove your case.
Ms. Webster gets suspicious thanks to some side comments and a few too many family resemblances. Maybe genetics do tell the truth? This revelation has her rethinking her whole life story, and just wait till you hear what she finds out next. This is gold.
Your Honor, I worked in a beauty salon with some of his relatives. They always kind of had something against me. I heard a relative say that that's not none of your father. I started questioning. I asked my mom, I talked to Mr. Smith, like, why are they saying that I'm not a part of their family? He said, you will always be my daughter. I believe in my heart that you are, and no matter what, you'll always be my daughter.
The plot thickens when Ms. Webster discovers she and the man who's supposed to be her dad don't even share the same blood type. Science comes into play, throwing a wrench into everything she knew. Buckle up, because the roller coaster is just taking off.
I still had doubts. I was a blood donor. We talked about blood types, and I know that the mother and the father of the child will have one or the other. Me and Mr. Smith don't have the same blood type. I was in question again. I'm very curious. I was with my cousin, Miss Smith, and she said, you know, I really believe in my heart that Mr. Ware is your father. You chuckle like him. She said, if I close my eyes and you both chuckle, you wouldn't know the difference.
Here comes a curveball. Ms. Webster finds her supposed dad's family all over her baby book. If that doesn't scream family secrets, I don't know what does. The courtroom's about to get rocked with this one.
There was an address. They had the
relatives of Mr. Ware,
yes, Your Honor,
have signed into your baby book when you were born. So, Mr. Ware, you knew of this young woman.
Yes, I did.
But you do not believe you're her biological father.
No, I do not. Because at the time when her mom and I were dating, she was in between two cities, Louisville, Kentucky, and Dayton, Ohio.
Fasten your seatbelts. Ms. Webster goes to church, praying for divine signs about her daddy dilemma, and bam, Mr. Ware pops up right behind her. If that's not a sign, I don't know what is. This moment is packed with emotions, and it's not even the finale.
We went to visit him at his church. I knew who he was, but he didn't know who I was. And knowing who my father is one of them. And I came to the Lord. I went to the altar. They had altar call. And I went up and I just prayed that God give me a sign to reveal. So I'm praying and I'm nervous, but I just felt this energy. And when they asked for the prayer warriors to come out, when I got up, Mr. Ware was standing right behind me.
Mr. Smith steps into the courtroom, adding more spice to this paternity stew. He's been writing checks for child support, but doubts linger. The truth is just a DNA test away. Get ready for the big reveal.
You have been paying child support.
Yes, I have.
But you don't believe you're her biological father.
No, I don't. Miss Webster was born September the 17th, which means that she had to be conceived either late December or January. Right there, she was born September the 17th. Last time I was home on leave was late November. So in order for her to be born in September, she had to be conceived either late December or early January. I was in Fort Hood, Texas.
Ms. Brady, the mom, is up next, and she's sticking to her story that Mr. Smith is the daddy, despite him being hundreds of miles away when the magic needed to happen. What's coming up will definitely throw you for a loop.
Her biological father is Mr. Myron Smith.
He says he was gone. He was serving the time that she was conceived. Is that not true?
Right, but Mr. Smith also came home on leave. Once we got together, Mr. Smith went back to the service, and then I was pregnant. When Mr. Smith called me one day, I said, you know what? I'm pregnant.
Hold on to your popcorn.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Ware, you are not her father.
Your Honor, my sister passed away. And instead of this man right here taking care of me, he started to fight and left. He wasn't there. The other man is the one who was texting my phone saying, are you okay?
Why was you texting your phone? How you have your phone number?
Why weren't you taking care of me?
We was arguing all the time through that time.
Exactly.
I traveled to Los Angeles back in '81, and I ran into a relative. This individual told me that their relative had my son. I got the information and I called Mrs. Lewis. Do we need to talk about something? And she said, no. I said, what about your son? What's going on there? Our ex-wife? She said his dad is dead.
Oh boy, this case starts off wild and only gets messier. Judge Lake introduces the case, where Mr. Scales claims Ms. Williams, the girl he's called his daughter her whole life, might not even be his because her mom cheated on him. And just like that, the courtroom is ready to explode with drama.
Ms. Williams, 5 years ago, the defendant, who you believed was your father, revealed a shocking family secret, that your mother cheated, and you are not his daughter. You and your sister are in court to prove him wrong.
Things get super awkward when Mr. Scales spills his story about the night he says Ms. Williams' mom cheated on him. He remembers waking up at 2 a.m. during an away game in 1983 and realizing she wasn't in their hotel room. It's already messy, but now everyone's waiting to see how this story unravels.
In 1983, we had an away game in Pensacola, and I took Ms. Williams with me. We checked into a hotel. I went to bed early because I worked that day, and it was a Friday. So about 2 o'clock in the morning, I wake up, and Ms. Williams is no longer in the room. I can't say exactly how long but I know it was at least an hour or two.
Now, Ms. Williams drops a bomb of her own when she talks about how she didn't find out her dad doubted her until she was 27. Imagine going through your whole life thinking you know who your dad is, and then boom, plot twist. Everyone's leaning in, waiting for her dad's big excuse.
I was 27 at the time. When I spoke with my mom, she had the fact that he was questioning paternity of me. He told me that there were some events that he didn't really feel the need to discuss with me at the time, that it was a discussion that she wasn't supposed to share with me. I spoke with my mom about it later, and she gave me more details, what actually had occurred.
Mr. Scales says he kept the paternity doubts to himself to give Ms. Williams a gift, a childhood without confusion. Honestly, that sounds like the weirdest gift ever. The audience is clearly ready for Ms. Williams to fire back.
Didn't say anything is because I wanted to give this child a gift and question who her father was.
Well, that wasn't fair for me to have to question that at 27 years old.
I'm your parent, I'm not your friend, and I have responsibilities and duties. I wanted to tell you at 27 because it's important for medical reasons, for moral reasons.
And here's where things get bananas. Ms. Williams shows her birth certificate and Mr. Scales' name is right there. But guess what? He straight up says, "That's not my signature." The crowd is buzzing now, and everyone's ready to see where this goes next.
I've never signed your birth certificate, Elisa.
You're listed as father.
I could be listed as father, but I never signed it.
I could be this child's father, but I might not be.
That's correct.
Everything in me feels like I'm his daughter. I feel that I look like him.
How was it presented to you specifically?
Really?
Judge Lake tries to calm the chaos and explain why it's hard to know the right time to drop news like this. But seriously, 27 years feels like way too late to bring it up. Just as the tension dies down, we hear more about Mr. Scales' real reasons.
Be clear, I completely and wholeheartedly empathize and understand both of you are saying. I cannot fathom being 27 years old, and the 20s are hard, girl. Just a tough time for young women.
And that's the time that he chose to bring it up.
And get this, Mr. Scales admits he never told Ms. Williams' mom he doubted her paternity because he didn't want to start drama. Yeah, sure, keeping secrets always works, right? Judge decides it's time to bring the mom into this mess.
I wasn't clear because I didn't want to cause any commotion or dissension. I wanted everything to go as if it was normal.
I was born at this time. It was never normal. There was always some tension about something.
Okay, the mom shows up and immediately starts throwing shade, calling Mr. Scales a liar. Then she admits, oh yeah, there was an affair, but it happened after the night he's talking about. This feels like a soap opera, but we're all waiting for the next bombshell about Ms. Williams' sister, Tonga.
It's no reason at all, Your Honor. If he was gonna doubt a child, he should doubt Tonja. I had the affair with the person in question when I met the
rest
person
my case, Your Honor.
in question. I didn't even have any kids from him.
This night in question, you did leave the room.
I did leave.
And you did have an affair.
I didn't have relations.
Plot twist. Ms. Williams' mom confirms Mr. Scales isn't listed on Tonga's birth certificate, which raises even more eyebrows. By now, everyone's questioning everything, and the suspense is building for the DNA test.
You didn't sign my birth certificate, or is that why
He never signed the birth certificate. I did put him on a list.
He listed on Tonja's birth certificate.
He's not.
He is not. Mr. Scales is not listed as father on her birth certificate.
Why not?
Now, she was born first.
It's go time, folks. The DNA test comes back. And guess what?
It has been determined by this court. Scales, you are her father.
Mission accomplished.
Imagine your partner just saying, nah, that kid isn't mine. Ms. England says Mr. Kaiser is denying their baby Isaac, even though he's fine claiming the older kid. Mr. Kaiser says she was with another guy during their breakup, so he's sure that dude is the dad. This is like a soap opera, but messier.
You say that you and Mr. Kaiser have been together for 6 years, have a 3-year-old son together, but claim he's now denying your 6-month-old son Isaac, and you're here to prove that he is the father. Mr. Kaiser, you acknowledge one child with Ms. England, but say Isaac is not yours. She slept with another man, and you are 100% sure he is the father.
Ms. England admits she moved in with another guy after she and Mr. Kaiser broke up, but Isaac was conceived when they toured and they tried to get back together. Both agree things were falling apart, but this drama is only getting started.
She knows why I denied the baby. She stayed off for 3 months with this other man.
Did you move in with another man?
Yes, Your Honor, I did. We were in a relationship for 4.5 years before we finally split, and I went with the other man. Yes.
And then during the split,
Isaac was conceived.
And so basically your relationship is completely on the brink. Like the stakes are high.
If it doesn't get solved today, it's over.
Things go off the rails. Mr. Kaiser says she snuck around with another guy. She blames his lack of support, especially after her sister passed away. It's just yelling and accusations. And yes, it gets even louder from here.
Your Honor, my sister passed away. And instead of this man right here taking care of me, he started to fight and left. He wasn't there. The other man is the one who was texting my phone saying, "Are you okay?"
Why was he texting your phone? How you have your phone number?
Why weren't you taking care of me?
We was arguing all the time during that time.
Exactly.
So there obviously was a breakdown in the relationship.
Right.
Yes.
They pull out a calendar. Ms. Englund says she was only with Mr. Kaiser during the conception window. She gives exact dates, but Mr. Kaiser's not buying it. Spoiler alert, this doesn't clear anything up. Science class is about to begin.
Your Honor, on the 25th of March is the last time I had been sexual with the other man. On the 28th, me and Mr. Kaiser, we got back together. We had unprotected sex on the 28th, the 29th, 30th, the 31st, and the 1st. And my conception date is the 30th of March. I had sex with the other man before the conception window.
Now it's about tongue ties and babies born with teeth. Ms. Englund says those traits run in Mr. Kaiser's family. But he's like, teeth? Really? But wait, here comes a doctor to sort this all out.
That baby's also tongue-tied, genetic trait. That baby looks like our 3-year-old child.
And you're referring to a medical condition?
Yes, ma'am.
She don't know if that guy's father.
That's not true, because
What if the other guy didn't have it, but his daddy had it? You see what I'm saying, Your Honor?
His daddy did not have it.
How does she know that, Your Honor? She never met the other guy's father.
Dr. McLaurin says tongue ties and natal teeth could be genetic, but it's not 100% guaranteed. Basically, this whole tooth argument is still up in the air. But forget the teeth. It's DNA test time, and things are about to get real.
There is no research that says 100% that if he has a tongue tie, his child will have a tongue tie.
And the research I read said 50-50 chance.
Is there research that says otherwise as well?
Yes. It's not necessarily that it says otherwise, it just, the complexity comes in diagnosing a tongue tie.
Here comes the bombshell, and wow, it's a tough one. The DNA results come back, and guess what?
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Kaiser, you are not the father.
Are you sure?
All right, folks, this is where it all starts. Drama Central. The court introduces the case of Miles versus Turner. Mr. Miles, after 37 whole years, claims Christine is his daughter. Christine's like, nah, not buying it. My mom says you're not the guy. Oh, this is gonna get messy real fast.
Mr. Miles, you are in court today to prove to your 37-year-old daughter, Christine, that you are her father. You admit you initially denied paternity when she was a baby, but are here to right your wrongs. But she now wants to prove you are not her biological father.
Christine doesn't hold back. She asks Mr. Miles why he's showing up now after being MIA her whole life, and reminds him her mom always said he wasn't her dad. Mr. Miles, looking cornered, says her mom was inconsistent about it. It's a messy blame game.
I don't believe you're my father. My mom says you are not my father. You've been absent for 37 years. Why? Why now?
Your mom said that I was your father, and why now? I had the opportunity to be able to look for you because I wanted to see who you are and who your family was.
It took you 37 years to do that?
All of this started, I was young and I was stupid.
Mr. Miles shares his backstory. He found out about Christine when the court told him he was a dad. He admits he initially denied she was his, but now wants to make it right. Christine looks unimpressed, thinking it's way too late for that.
A few months later, I'm in court. I didn't even know she was pregnant. I didn't even know she had a baby until I got summons to go to court. Are you the father? And at that time, your mom was not just sleeping with me, she was with other guys. They asked your mom, and she said, yeah, he's the father. In about 15 minutes of a court session, I was named the father. At the time, I didn't believe it.
Christine opens up about her tough childhood without a dad, trouble at school, foster care, everything. She's strong now, but asks Mr. Miles why he's here. His answer isn't very convincing.
I was really bad as a student. I got in a lot of trouble. I went to foster care 4 years. I went through lots of therapy to forget all this, and I'm back today.
But you're strong, and you're not alone, because we're here with you.
Thank you.
Plot twist. Mr. Miles says he found out later he owed a lot in child support. Christine remembers her mom getting those checks and being confused since she didn't raise her. The drama just keeps escalating.
In 1992, we filed our taxes. Taxes came back, and there's a letter. You owe like $28,000 in back child support. And that just shocked me. Like I said, I just didn't have a clue that was even there.
And you didn't try to find out then?
Back then, there was no internet, no cell phones. All you had was people that you knew and telephone lines.
They met when Christine was 6 16. Mr. Miles even offered her a place, but after that, she heard nothing from him again. He claims it was due to money issues, but Christine isn't buying it.
Well, I met Mr. Miles one time when I was 16. He came to my grandparents' house. My grandparents actually let me go stay the night with him and his wife. I was never told about them until that very day, how I was going to feel.
I thought we did, hit it off pretty good. And if I think I asked her if she wanted to come live with us if possible.
We were willing to take her in as ours.
Absolutely.
Christine's mom admits she was seeing someone else when Christine was conceived and insists Mr. Miles isn't the dad. Christine is stunned, while Mr. Miles still believes he could be. It's chaotic, and Christine wants answers.
I met Rick at a bar and our relationship was not too serious and short term. Shortly after Rick and I split, I started seeing another man and I became pregnant soon after. Time I conceived Christine. She had to be conceived around May 1979. I wasn't with Rick.
All right, the moment of truth is here and it's intense. DNA results are in, and guess what?
It has been determined by this court. Jamiel, you are not the father. I'm very sorry.
All right, buckle up, because this story is about to get completely bananas. Judge introduces the case of Lewis versus McAllister. Mr. Lewis says he's sure Mr. McAllister is his dad, and they're here to finally solve a 44-year-old mystery. What happens next? Oh, it's wild.
Mr. Lewis, you say you've always known the defendant is your father and say his paternity denials are mere excuses as to why he was not there for you. You hope today's results put an end to this 44-year-old mystery.
Seriously, this story is already giving soap opera vibes. Mr. McAllister says he's got his doubts because he's heard so many different stories about who the dad is, and he really wants to know the truth today. Next up, let's dig into the backstory of these two.
Mr. McAllister, you claim that years of doubt have given you reason to believe that you are not father, but you may know who is. You are ready to prove your case today.
Imagine being told who your dad is after years of not knowing. Yeah, it's that kind of emotional roller coaster. Mr. Lewis explains how his mom gave him a picture of Mr. McAllister and told him he was his father, but this only happened way later in life. And trust me, Mr. McAllister's side of things is even more of a head scratcher.
Well, my mom, it was because the type of woman she was, she didn't want to allow the turmoil from that affair interfere with my life. But as a woman, we had to move on. She let me know who he was as a father. She had a picture of him,
So was this some defining moment in your life when your mother said to you, I want to tell you who your father was, or was this always just...
No, it was clear, yeah, when I found out, yeah.
Okay, now this is where things get really messy. Mr. McAllister says he heard all kinds of stories, like 4 different versions, about who the dad was, including one where the guy was dead. Spoiler, the drama is just warming up.
I traveled to Los Angeles back in '81, and I ran into a relative. This individual told me that their relative had my son. I got the information and I called Mrs. Lewis. Do we need to talk about something? And she said, no. I said, what about your son? What's going on there? Our ex-wife? She said, his dad is dead.
This part sounds like a game of telephone gone wrong. Mr. McAllister shares how he heard rumors that the father might be his cousin Michael, or some random guy, or someone else entirely. It's basically a paternity whodunit. But hang on, here's the kicker. Mr. Lewis's middle name is Michael. Yep.
I also heard that it could have been my first cousin, Michael. And unfortunately, a family member told me there was someone from the location, the city that I stayed in. I also heard from the mom that he died. So those are 4 different versions. So as I said, before I leave here, I just felt just important that I know for sure.
The middle name twist is just chef's kiss level drama. Judge Lake points out how Mr. Lewis's middle name matches Mr. McAllister's cousin's name, adding another layer to this chaotic puzzle. Trust me, the next part will have you questioning everything.
I see that Mr. Lewis's full name is Jermaine Michael Lewis.
I never even looked at that like that.
And Michael is your cousin's first name.
That is correct.
Have you ever heard anything about Mr. McAllister's cousin or your mother potentially having a relationship with him?
Never.
Growing up in South Central LA is already a tough gig, but this story takes it to another level. Mr. Lewis shares how he leaned on football to avoid gangs, thanks to his mom's protection. But wait, what's next? Let's talk about why his mom may have told him his dad was dead.
What was life like?
Tough, growing up, I gravitated to football because there were opportunities to get into gangs being in South Central Los Angeles. My mother, she protected me because when she told him, and I'm not sure if she did say that, but I can see my mother, if she did say he was dead, it was to protect me because we had already moved.
Mr. McAllister suddenly popping back into Mr. Lewis's life is the definition of awkward timing. He says he tried to reconnect when Mr. Lewis was 16, even though he wasn't sure he was the dad. Mr. Lewis's reaction? Oh, it's a mix of, okay, and seriously, dude?
When I finally found out about that there was a possibility here, I reached out to him and I told him I was gonna be coming to Los Angeles and I would like to meet him. Me and my ex-wife was going on vacation. And
How old was Jermaine then?
He was 16 at the time. And we met and everything, and you know, I just wanted to get to know him. I wanted him to get to know me.
The timing of Mr. McAllister's reappearance is, let's say, super convenient. Mr. Lewis was doing great in football and had scholarships lined up, so he felt like Mr. McAllister only showed up because of his success. The next bit dives into what it was like when Mr. McAllister tried to patch things up.
It was bittersweet because I totally felt that he came around because things in my life were good. You know, me playing football, I had some scholarship offers. So that's why things to me kind of seem fishy. Like all of a sudden, now that you see you have a son and he's doing well, now you're picking up the phone. Because like I say, where we're from, tough for us not to know because it's such a small community.
If you thought things couldn't get more awkward, think again. Mr. McAllister's daughter, Domenica, steps in to say she believes Mr. Lewis is her brother and recalls how her dad introduced him as family when she was little. What happens next? Oh, just more head-scratching decisions by Mr. McAllister.
I was very young. Mr. Lewis was in town visiting, and I remember my father telling me that it was a cousin that was visiting initially. Later, after Mr. Lewis left and went back to LA, my father sat me down and told me that that was my brother, and he wanted to know how I felt about having an older brother.
Years of rumors, confusion, and doubts are about to come to an end. Finally, Judge Lake sums up the mess of conflicting stories that have plagued this case for 44 years. Next up, the DNA results, and trust me, they're worth the wait.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. McAllister, you are the father.
Wow, right off the bat, you know this is going to be a wild ride. The case of Walker versus DeVost kicks off with Mr. Walker claiming he's the dad of baby Kaimani. Ms. DeVost, though, casually drops the bomb that he's not. Oh, and she also admits she let him believe this for a whole year. Buckle up because this mess is just getting started and the drama is about to go full speed.
Mr. Walker, you claim the defendant led you to believe you fathered her son, Kamani, for an entire year, but just 6 months ago told you you are not father and refuses to let you see him. You are here to prove that Kamani is your biological son.
Mr. Walker and Ms. DeVost met in foster care and got close, but weren't officially dating. She told him he was the dad, but there was another guy. And just like that, chaos begins.
We met when we was in foster care. We was like this group home setting for older youth to live on their own independently. We met there, we became friends, and then I came back. Somehow we got back in contact. I was like over his house every day. It was like a getaway. We wasn't in a relationship, but it was a situation like we was together.
Ms. DeVost admits to being with someone else when Kaimani was conceived. Mr. Walker had no idea, even though he was working 2 jobs to prepare for the baby. The mess just keeps piling up.
When I find out that she's pregnant, I really just start to prepare myself mentally, and I also was just looking for work. I had 2 jobs at the time. I was just really trying to just prepare myself for everything. So I know what it means to have a child. I didn't really have a dad growing up, and I grew up in the system, and I don't know, I like babies.
Mr. Walker thought he was starting a family, signing the birth certificate and giving his all. Ms. DeVost, meanwhile, kept her doubts because she feared being alone, and what she admits next, even more shocking.
I actually have the birth certificate that I signed when he was first born.
I'd like to see that. And so you were there.
Yes,
she told you it was your child and you lived up to what you were supposed to do. This is the birth certificate for Kamani Dominique DeVost Walker. He has your last name and you are listed as father, willingly and voluntarily.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. DeVost admits she felt bad for lying, but let Mr. Walker stay because he was doing all the right things. The judge is unimpressed, giving her a side eye, and somehow it gets even wilder.
I didn't want to hurt him. Like, I already felt like I regret letting him go through with it, because when I looked at my son, after I got through my surgery and everything, I thought he seen my son before I did. Can't turn back now, not to tell him that he's not the father. He been there the whole pregnancy, he was there, so I'm like, it's too late, it felt.
Mr. Walker shows text where Ms. DeVost tells him he's not the dad, even saying, you ruined your own life. The judge calls her out, and then things get even messier when the other guy is mentioned.
So it says, you say you kicked me out with damn near no place to go. You wasn't thinking about our son or anything. He's not your son. So as long as I'm on the birth certificate, I'm not going anywhere. You ruined my whole life. You're not his father. You ruined your own life. You cold cold-blooded.
Ms. DeVos says the baby looks like the other guy, who sometimes FaceTimes but isn't around. Mr. Walker sits there crushed, and the DNA results are coming up next. Buckle up for the final twist.
Did you ever do a paternity test with the other man?
No.
So how are you certain he's the child's biological father?
He looks just like him. They got family members that look identical too. So
you still allowed Mr. Walker to believe for the first 8 months of Kamani's life he was the child's biological father?
Yes.
And here's the moment that leaves everyone's jaw on the floor.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Walker, you are not the father.
I'm sorry.
Two guys think they're the dad of the same baby. Judge Lake takes on the case of Murray versus Gerald Donaldson, with Mr. Murray and Mr. Donaldson both claiming to be 18-month-old Anaya's father. Ms. Harris admits she was with both guys. It's messy, and it's about to get even messier.
There are 2 men in court today claiming to have fathered your 18-month-old daughter, Anaya, your current boyfriend, the plaintiff, Mr. Murray, and the defendant, your ex-boyfriend, Mr. Donaldson. They are both in court today to prove paternity.
Ms. Harris says Mr. Donaldson dumped her after she got pregnant, telling her, actually, I like someone else. He even thought she faked the pregnancy to keep him around. Awkward enough already, but Mr. Donaldson's side of the story just makes it worse.
From my understanding, we was dating, but then when I got pregnant, he told me he had feelings for another girl. He told me that he didn't want to be with me. So I was basically alone during my pregnancy. He was there during the baby shower, and he came to the hospital with his mom when I had her.
You're in a relationship. You all are boyfriend and girlfriend?
Yeah, we were.
Mr. Donaldson didn't believe her, so he brought over a pregnancy test like it was a science experiment. He didn't believe it until her belly grew, and he eventually showed up at the hospital. Just as he seems to be stepping up, his mom has her own version of events.
How long did this relationship last between you and Mr. Donaldson?
It was like a couple months. It wasn't that long.
At some point, he did accept that the baby was his?
He had to when he seen that my belly was big.
Because you said at first he didn't even believe it, so then when your stomach started growing.
No, he brought me a pregnancy test.
So you brought her a pregnancy test and said, prove it.
Mr. Donaldson's mom, Ms. Gerald, didn't find out about the pregnancy until 5 months in. She accepted her son as the dad, but family whispers started saying the baby looked like Mr. Murray instead. And just as things heat up, Mr. Murray brings his own twist to the story.
I did not find out about it until she was about 5 months, maybe. When he told me about it, I accepted that he was. That's what Chastity stated, that he was the dad.
At what point, Mr. Donaldson, did you say, Mom, I have something I have to tell you?
I didn't even tell her, honestly. I told my father, and my father told her.
Mr. Murray found out he might be the dad because Mr. Donaldson randomly DM'd him on Facebook. Turns out Mr. Murray and Ms. Harris had a fling, and they can't agree on whether they used protection. It's a soap opera with more receipts and a messier timeline.
Why do you believe you could be the biological father of this child?
One day I was on Facebook and I got a message with Jalen. He told me that the baby could possibly be mine.
Telling you that the baby could possibly be yours?
Yeah, I need to get a DNA test.
You sent him that message, Mr. Donaldson?
I'm not gonna say yes, I'm not gonna say no. I don't recall.
Ms. Harris admits she was with both guys around the same time. She insists Mr. Murray used protection, but he disagrees. And then Mr. Murray casually mentions an unprotected threesome in December. Now the court has to sort out this web of dates to figure out the truth.
Because during that time, he used protection. And from the time that he's talking about he could be her father is from a time in December.
The time that you had sex without protection was in December.
Yes.
It wasn't during the window of conception.
No.
Date of conception was around February the 10th. Anaya was born on October 21st.
Yes.
Despite the chaos, Mr. Murray stepped up, being there for Anaya since she was 3 months old. Both sides argue the baby looks like their guy, but the resemblance game is far from over. DNA results are just around the corner, and no one's ready for what's next.
Who's in her life as father? Who does she bond with as a father?
Mr. Murray. She looks to him like he's her father because he's been there ever since she was 3 months.
At that point in time, she was in like a down position, so I just took her and her in. Like, I take care of both of y'all.
Both families insist she looks just like him, but with pictures of both guys shown in court, even the judge says they're guessing. The moment of truth is coming, and trust me, it's going to be a shocker.
You believe Anaya looks like your grandchild, like your son's baby. And that's a picture of Mr. Murray on the left and Anaya on the right. Why are you smiling like that, Mr. Donaldson?
Because that's a real, they do look alike. Like that. You can't even lie. They look alike.
Was a baby picture of Mr. Donaldson.
Okay, here it is. Time to finally get some answers, right? Wrong.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Murray, you are not the father. Miss Harris?